Welcome to the Bill Michaels Show. I'm Bill Michaels. Ben Kenny producing the program. Ben, how you doing today? You good today?
I'm good, Bill. It's a Tuesday.
Yeah?
Honestly, I got out on the course yesterday.
Okay.
And sources are saying, there's a little rumbling going on, that my golf game's back.
Back to what?
Back to not as embarrassing as it was. Back is a relative term, but sources are saying.
All right. Just checking. Okay, at least back to... Now, is it back to busting 90?
I only played 9 holes.
Okay.
Shot a 43.
Well, then you would be busting 90. You'd be 86.
Yeah, so we're working back. I'm on vacation next week. I'm playing golf all 7 days, so awesome. It's a grind here. I hope you're doing well.
Perfect. Good stuff. I am doing well. I am today. It's crazy. The schedule is bananas. So for those that are keeping track, tonight we are going to be in Wausau. The cigar dinner tonight, compliments of our friends at Tobacco Outlet Plus Grocery. And we've got a cigar dinner tonight. That'll be in Wausau. And the minute that is over, which, by the way, the cigar dinner in Wausau tonight, that's at Trails End Lodge, is sold out. I tell you, these things sell out quick. The next one is tomorrow. I go from Wausau tonight. I'll be driving over then to La Crosse, where we get up tomorrow morning, and we'll be playing golf and doing the show live from the golf club at Cedar Creek. That event has now sold out. So both events have now sold out. And then we're going to be in Eau Claire again on August 22nd. That is next Monday at Wild Ridge again for the next event that is coming up. Then there's a Wausau cigar golf event at Pine Valley Golf Course on September 7th. There's still some tickets available for that. We're going to be in Chippewa Falls on Monday, September 12th at the Wissota High Shore Supper Club. There are some tickets still available there. And then the last one of the year, we're going to be back in La Crosse at Celebrations. That is on September 13th. So we have got the next 2 events completely sold out. Then there is one in Eau Claire on the 22nd. We're going to be in Wausau again on the 7th, Chippewa Falls on the 12th, and La Crosse to close things out on the 13th. But so I'm going to be in Wausau tonight, La Crosse tomorrow, back here in studio on Thursday, I believe. Friday, then, we'll be doing the show. Either Thursday or Friday, we're going to be at the brand new opening. And Ben, this may perk your ears up. They are opening a Lux Air Golf in Milwaukee. You ever been to one of those?
No. What is that?
That is the 2-tiered golf where they have the giant nets down both sides of the fairway. And they have all these
golf?
Like Top Golf, yes. And they have all these target, but they call it Lux Air because it's like Top Golf on steroids. And it is opening this Friday. So we are either going to be there on Thursday or on Friday. And then Friday night, going to be in Green Bay at Lambeau for the Packers preseason home opener. Then back into Milwaukee down at actually Elkhorn and Alpine Valley on Saturday. And then Sunday back out to Eau Claire for the Wild Ridge Golf event on Monday. So the travel has not stopped. That's a lot.
Can we get some swing videos from that endeavor?
Sure. I'm going to be playing golf tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I can even set up the slow motion on my camera so you get the full effect of the swing in action. So.
I've seen a lot of videos recently of NFL guys or college guys going out and playing Top Golf and just throwing the clubs and completely missing the ball. So something along those lines would be very
There is 2 things that I watched last night. There was one girl, I don't know what her name is, and it pops up all the time. But it's like she's out on a date. She's in a mini dress, 5-inch heels, and that girl can crush it. She goes to these Top Golf things, completely dressed to the nines, smoking hot, and crushes it. And then there was a girl that it followed her in it was, I don't know whether it was Reels or whatever it was that I was watching. And she is kind of dressed similarly. And she is on the second deck and she gives a great big swing and falls off the deck. I shouldn't laugh because I'm sure she got hurt. But yeah, she falls right out into the yard. And so, the ultimate fail of golf swings, I think, would be that. But yeah, the Top Golf and the Luxair Golf, and there's some good videos there if you go search for them. So I'm excited. We're going to do some golf coming up tomorrow. And then we're going to be doing some golf down at the Luxair joint on Thursday or Friday, and then back to Wild Ridge Golf Course on Monday. So there's a lot of golf in the future. And then obviously the end of the month is the Fisher House golf outing. That's on Monday, the 29th. I'm going to be off that day. But you know who's joining us that day?
Who?
I just found out, so you wouldn't know. I shouldn't even ask the question. Brad Keselowski of NASCAR, the NASCAR driver. He's coming down. He's apparently a big supporter of Fisher House. They run some things on their car in support of, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Brad Keselowski who's the driver that's coming to join us. So I just found that out. I was stunned. I'm like, really? I got a call from a couple of news stations, and they said, yeah, Brad Keselowski's coming down. So kind of cool.
So what do those guys do when it's a dogleg right? I figure they're great at turning left around the course.
Well,
but what happens when
if it's in the trees, they treat it like a road course. They can treat it like a road course. So, but yeah, it's going to be Brad Keselowski. And then obviously the following weekend is the motorcycle ride. And I've been doing a lot for that. Got some videos coming out for that. So to say that this is a busy time of year, I think would be a massive understatement. And then obviously in the meantime, we're going to try to get up sometime next week, I believe, to Packers camp and do the show there. Then obviously more Packers game and coverage. Then the Badgers get underway. So, we're like not even done with summer, and we are smashing everything into fall. And I just solidified a golf trip, which you ought to come with us, to see our buddy Ernie in Wausau. And I believe that is going to be at the end of September. So it's still a good time to play golf, but I believe we're going to go at the end of September. I'm just waiting to finalize some details if I can. But on the 23rd and 24th, I think we're going to be in Wausau. So I think that's coming. So we got a lot of golf left to play. Correct me if I'm wrong. A couple of tournaments coming up too. So Adam says, just built a golf simulator in my garage. We should look into it. Into your garage, or putting a golf simulator in the garage? Just want to clarify, because if we got to come to your house, I don't know if I need to bring something for potluck or what. So let me know. Thomas says, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Go Pack going this Friday. Let's ball out. That's over on the Bud Light live stream. By the way, if you want to watch the program, you can via Facebook Live. You can track us down there, or you can find us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show and subscribe for free. We love it when you watch the programs and subscribe. Plus, we're going to be at a lot of different locations. It's always cool. Pop it up on your computer and you can watch where we're at. Kevin says, how's the back with the golf? Suppose a lot of hot tub time afterwards. Kevin, I received my spinal treatment going on 2 weeks now. And I was just a friend of mine called me yesterday who I had not talked to in a couple of weeks. He said, hey, how you feeling? I have got I'm stunned. It makes me like openly want to cry. I woke up just before we left for Sturgis. So a week ago, say Thursday or Wednesday, I had gone in for my treatment. I felt like I was paralyzed, and it scared the hell out of me. And they said, it's normal. Just wait. You're going to be good, And I woke up on Tuesday. I was a little sore and still felt it. I think it was Wednesday, and I have absolutely positively zero pain. I am amazed at what my doctors did. The gang over at St. Luke took care of me, and I can't say thank you enough. It's been so unbelievably impressive. But I've got my life back. And when you live with pain, Kristen and I were talking about this yesterday. When you live with pain, and it's not just a normal pain. Everybody has back pains, ankle pains, knee pains, whatever it happens to be. You have aches. But when you are in pain, And the choice to stay sedentary versus go do something because you need to do it, but you choose not to because of the pain, and you live your life differently. It's when you wake up and you don't have it anymore. It's like you have your life back. And, golf has been okay. The riding around Sturgis was great. Now it's just a matter of getting healthy again, going back to dropping the weight. That's the big thing, because the steroids, between the steroids and just being sedentary and really not eating that great, but it's put weight on, and it's time to start taking it back off again. And I started yesterday heavily. I started working out again just because I can now. I can do the bike. I can do some walking around the block, and I started doing that. But thank you for asking, but it's been an absolute miraculous recovery, I guess, for lack of a better term. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670 if you want to hit us up too. So one of the other side notes to, and I didn't really want to get, you got to talk about it, but you don't want to get too heavy into it. But again, yesterday, the Brewers lost. Sucks. I know. Sucks. Brewers now sitting, they lost a half game. They're 2 games behind the Cardinals, and there is really not a lot of relief in sight. You got 3 more with the Dodgers coming up, 3-game weekend series with Chicago, and then 3 more with the Dodgers after that. And the hitting just, as we all know, it's been somewhat silenced, to say the very least. That might be the best way to put it. But the Brewers get blanked yesterday, 4-0. And it was, Urias is just on fire. He goes to 13-6. His ERA goes down to 2.40 on the season for the Dodgers. Freddie Peralta gave it his all, but he couldn't get any run support. So he goes to 4-3 with a 4.21 ERA now. And in the meantime, Christian Yelich, a career 311 hitter with 10 home runs, 23 RBIs in 47 games against the Dodgers. He is now hitless in his last 25 at-bats. He has scored just 1 run in the last 7 games. So going into the contest last night, there was a lot of optimism saying, look, he's always been kind of a Dodger killer. Since joining the Brewers, Yelich is batting .339 with 6 dingers, 11 RBIs in 17 games, and having a .423 on-base percentage and a 1.14 OPS against the Dodgers. He has always played well. Last night blanked. And again, he is hitless in his last 25 at-bats. And you need him to be him. And it is what it is, I guess. I don't know I don't know what else to say about Christian Yelich. When people talk about how he's come back and this is great, I keep saying that's good, but give me a season, because this guy just flat out goes away. And here we are again, 25 at-bats. That's a week's worth of at-bats. And doesn't have a hit. So, not good. Not good. There is, I'll say this, and you and I have talked about this before, so I don't want to beat this horse. But when they made the trade for Hader and got what they got in return and then DFA'd and such and made the roster moves, the rumblings are that basically the message was sent that we think you're winners, but we don't think you can win it. That was the message sent from management. And sometimes when management, and this is the reason I talk about this all the time, about management, quote, going for it, because when management says, hey, we believe in you, we think we've got something really good, it gives you a charge, man. Everybody's believing you're ready to go. If your manager comes to you and says, hey, look, things are setting up, this is going to be our best year ever. Our sales are up. The money's good. It looks like bonuses and raises are coming. I think we can do this. This can be our best year ever. Let's get on board. It energizes you. It gives you a goal. It's like, really? Okay, let's do this. When your manager comes to you and says, yeah, we're not even going to come close to hitting our goals. We're going to be good, but, it's not going to be a great year. You tend to take your foot off the gas. you tend to say, well, you know what? If it doesn't matter to them, it doesn't matter to me. Right? So I think that's what management's message was to those guys inside that clubhouse. And I think it may not have destroyed chemistry, but it took away that mood that was in there. John says, I'm hearing rumblings that Ignacio is going to sell the team. Any truth to that? Have you heard any talk of it behind closed doors? I have not. Somebody mentioned that, maybe it was you yesterday. I don't know. But there have been a couple of people that have asked me about that. But me personally, I have not heard any of that. I don't know at this point why he would, unless he just feels like it's time to sell high and this franchise is gone about as far as I can possibly take it. And maybe he just sees bad times coming on the horizon. I don't know. But and maybe personally, he just doesn't want to be the bad guy. Maybe he doesn't want to be the guy that says, you know what? We can't afford all these guys. I'm going to have to go look the fans in the eye and say, sorry, our budget doesn't allow it. And ask the fans to understand, because fans aren't going to understand. Fans are going to say, we pour 2.5 million people through the turnstiles every damn year. What we want is a team that's going to be really competitive, not just for the postseason, but for World Series. We want a World Series. And maybe he has to go and look the fans in the eye and say, you know what? Unless we strike lightning all the time, we're not going to win a World Series. I don't think he wants to be the guy to deliver that message. But you can certainly believe that you have that ability every year. But when you have right now the ineptitude between, and let's be honest, I mean, the Yankees are the Yankees. They're still right there, right? Everybody knows that, okay? And while we see, Aaron Boone struggle, they are still 10 games up in the division. They're not going away anytime soon. As a matter of fact, they're only a couple of games behind the Houston Astros for the best record in the American League. They're the third best record or fourth best record in all of baseball, even though they've fallen off dramatically here in the last couple of weeks. Okay. But excuse me, but they've got money. They can still do things. The Dodgers are head and shoulders above everybody else, and their payroll is ridiculous. And we know that. And maybe Mark Antanasio is looking at this going, you know what? Yeah, we can't keep up. There is such a dramatic ineptitude when you've got $265 million. The Dodgers have the largest payroll at 265.4. Mets, 261.6. Yankees, 251.8. After that, it's the Phillies, then the Padres. The Red Sox at $208 million, and they're dead last in the division. The White Sox, who are supposed to be really good, but aren't, 196.1. And then the Astros, 182.6. Then the Braves, and it goes on from there. The Angels, surprisingly, have a high payroll and just they can't win despite themselves. And then the Cardinals sitting there at number 12, followed by the Giants and the Cubs, and it goes on from there. The league average is 148.1. And you got the Milwaukee Brewers at 129.9. So they're $20 million away from even being at the league average. And their budget doesn't allow them to go that extra $20 million. So maybe Mark Antanasio is looking at this going, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I can't keep up. I can't do this. I can't compete with the Dodgers. The Dodgers are spending $120 million more. They're spending the equivalent of basically the Brewers' payroll more than the Brewers. And he's probably looking at it going, how do you compete against that? And unfortunately, the 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 7 top teams, 8 of the top teams that have high payrolls, 5 of them are all division leaders or in the postseason at this point. How do you compete with that? I agree. Let's do this. We are woefully late for a break. Got off onto a tangent. My apologies. Stay tuned. Got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
I give that a 2.99.
Okay.
Hey, Dad.
What's wrong?
That woman over there. Don't look.
What did she do?
She judged my dive. Gave it a 2.99. Isn't that weird?
Hey, that's Gina Della from Pella. I'm going to find out what this is all about. Excuse me. Why are you judging my daughter's diving? I know who you are.
I'm sorry? Judging?
Yeah, she said you yelled out.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about her. I was finalizing this month's special at Palo Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. That's funny.
What's special?
Pay only 2.99% interest for 10 years.
On new Pella windows. Really? 10 years?
Yep.
But it's the middle of summer. You can't get a deal on installing new windows during the warmest season.
You can at Palo Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Wow, 2.99.
Dad?
Oh, not you, sweetheart. The deal at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. 2.99% for 10 years.
Visit PellaWI.com.
Catch all the racing action at Road America. Camping and corporate events available as well. Go to roadamerica.com for all the information. Road America, America's national park of speed.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I wanted to I wanted to get back real quick into the Brewers, and then we'll kind of move on to a little bit of Cardinals chatter. But the World Series is ultimately the goal, and for a long time it was just get to 500. Then it was get to the postseason. They've done that consistently now. Now it's get not only to an NLCS, but it's time to get to a World Series. And I was asked this during the break. And you know what? Let me grab it here. I got a buddy of mine. He texted me. He said, "Do you feel that the Brewers are closer to a World Series or closer to a rebuild in the next 3 years? Because if they're closer to a rebuild, no wonder Mark Antanasio would probably want out." Now, okay, let me say this. First and foremost, I do not know in any way, shape, or form, or have heard in any way, shape, or form that Mark even is considering selling the team. That's just a rumor that was brought up by John, a viewer over on the Facebook fan page and the Bud Light live stream. So I don't know that. I wouldn't say that. But if I had to guess where they are at, sitting here today, and this is a team right now that's only a couple of games behind the Cardinals in the standings. Okay. They're 2 games behind the Cardinals in the standings. Now, if you get into the wild card aspect of this, the Brewers are on the outside looking in. They're 2 games back behind San Diego. The Braves right now are up 6.5 in the wild card standings, followed by the Phillies, then the Padres, then the Brewers. So the Brewers are still on the outside looking in. All right. Now, here's my question. I shouldn't say my question, my conundrum. What do I believe? The Brewers are closer to winning a World Series or closer to a rebuild? Looking at the reality of things the way they are right now, the record, the talent, and such, I would probably say if they could get some things to break their way and hoping, and I hate to do this, but this is the reality, hoping for a team like the Dodgers or the Mets, they'd have to suffer a few injuries. They'd have to have a couple of setbacks, and the Brewers then would have to catch fire because the same problems that we've seen sporadically pop up with this team throughout the season, they remain constant. And that is the fact that they just lose their ability to hit the baseball. I don't know what else to say. They just don't have fundamental ability to hit the baseball consistently. So I would say that if they got hot, they're closer to a World Series as it stands in reality right now. In 3 years, boy. And that was the original question. I would probably have to say that they're closer to a rebuild. I know that pains a lot of people, but I just don't see right now the team being able to go ahead and just power past all of this and suddenly get hot and streak their way deep into the postseason. I just don't see it. I don't know about you, but I just don't see it right now. Let's do this. We'll step away, take a quick break, come back. But you answer that question for me. I think it's very interesting. We're also going to hear from Craig Counsell when we come back. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Push it enough at this point. We are, come Sunday, we're going to be 2 weeks away from our motorcycle poker run. And I got an update today. We're a little bit ahead of schedule when it comes to pre-registration. And knock on wood, the weather's good. But we're going to run this thing on Sunday, September 4th. And it's really setting up to be cool. We are going to be doing our show live from Wisconsin Harley-Davidson on Friday the 2nd. And I got wind today we are going to have in the same segment. Ben, do you know the band Disturbed?
I do not.
They were one of the headliners at Summerfest this year. The drummer, who many people in this area know, Mike Wangren, is a big fan of Harley and the ride and such. And obviously Jesse James Dupree from the band Jackal. They are both going to be with me that Friday out at Wisconsin Harley-Davidson to do the program. So kind of cool, rubbing elbows. Neat stuff. So they're going to be there. And then come Sunday, we're going to ride, for Fisher House, Wisconsin. And we can't do it without you. So please, if you're right now following us on the Bud Light live stream, you can scan the QR code. It'll take you right to pre-registration. If you want to get pre-registered for this, simply go to fisherhousewi.org and go to the events page and scroll down. You can see the pre-registration. But we ride from Milwaukee Brewing. The staging on Sunday morning begins at 8 a.m., goes to 11. We're going to be escorted, and a big thanks again to the Milwaukee Police Department, Sheriff's Department, State Patrol, our friends down in Franklin, the Franklin Police Department as well, who I think is working in conjunction with Milwaukee, our friends at the Milwaukee Fire Department that are going to be a part of this. We got a lot of different services coming out to help us and get us from point A to point B safely. We've got a tremendous girl singing the national anthem down there that day. Milwaukee Brewing is going to be open. There's going to be breakfast sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. And you can walk through the brewery and do brewery tours, and the rooftop patio is going to be open. And that's all before we even leave. And then after we ride, we're going to go to the Rock Complex. What I just mentioned, they've got the new Lux Air Golf that's getting ready to open. From there, we go to Alpine Valley, both the chalet and the theater, which is fantastic. And then after that, we go to a great place called Knucklehead out in Eagle, and then to Wisconsin Harley-Davidson. And our friends from Potawatomi Hotel Casino jumped on board. They're bringing dealers that are going to deal the poker hands. Our friends from Bud Light have been there for 15 years. Thanks to our friends at Growth Law, GROTH, growthlaw.com. If you are a biker and you get injured, one of the top 20 biker law firms in the country right here in our own backyard. That's Growth Law. Go to growthlaw.com. Thanks to our friends at Great Lakes Dragaway. They're a part of this again this year, and Roy and his staff do such a great job and provide such a great experience down in Union Grove, Wisconsin. But they're a part of it. Our friends at Kane & Kane Jewelers, Andy Kane and his great wife, Jen, and they do a great job at their jewelry store, long-time family-owned jewelry store in West Bend, but they just wanted to be a part of it and support veterans. And obviously they do so much with us as well, but all of our great sponsors, but we can't do it without you. If you ride or know someone who does, please get registered. You can follow all the details, all the pre-registration prize packages and stuff, only for those who pre-register. We have great prize packages. And if you win the poker hand or come in second or what have you, there are all kinds of prizes. There's a 75-inch big screen TV to the winner. There's beer for a year from our friends over at Beechwood Distributing and Budweiser, whether it's Budweiser products or something else that they distribute. There's all kinds of other prize packages, dinner packages, everything we've got, but we can't do it without you. And please get pre-registered. Go to fisherhousewi.org in the events page and get pre-registered. We're a little bit ahead of last year. And what that means is we got great weather, and we all know we're weather dependent, so to speak. We're shooting for 800 plus motorcycles this year and 1,500 people, which would be fantastic. So please get pre-registered. Yesterday, the Brewers lost, and the question is, are they closer to winning a World Series or closer to a rebuild? It's I think, as you sit here today in the doldrums, you're kind of questioning what direction they're headed right now as they continue to take losses against quality teams. Craig Counsell yesterday after the ballgame, take a listen to what Craig had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I know we didn't score against Urias. I thought we had pretty good at bats and did a decent job against them and made them work for it. We just, we had a couple rallies going and couldn't get the next hit. A couple leadoff hitters on, couldn't get anything going. He's a good pitcher for sure. One of the tougher starters in the league. But yeah, in the end, we couldn't. We didn't do enough to create offense.
What about just the number of foul balls on both sides? Like just long kind of grind out at bats?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that was kind of the story against Urias for us. We just, we had long at bats. Yelich had a couple of very long at bats with a bunch of foul balls and got himself back into counts. But, we couldn't put one in the gap or over the fence.
With the way the relievers pitched, is it the depth and just the amount of guys that they can bring in? late games that makes it so difficult to scratch across anything late?
Well, they have good pitchers. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to score against them. They have a couple guys that have having really nice years, and but those are the guys we're going to have to score against.
Craig, do you think there's still time to turn around some of the numbers against lefties? I know we've asked you about this many times, but just can this group change that trajectory?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we still have a bunch of guys who have a big track record of success against left-handed pitching. So, I absolutely believe we can and will.
You like play Rowdy, swung it against the lefty?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I think Urias is, he's good against both sides. But Rowdy had a couple nice at bats tonight. I mean, Yelich had nice at bats tonight, so our lefties did a nice job.
Where do you think Freddie that pitch count though?
Yeah, I mean, they Sophia's point, they spoiled a bunch of pitches. He did a good job getting ahead. It wasn't like he was working from behind with that pitch count. He was ahead in the count, and I thought did a nice job. It's important you do that. They spoiled enough pitches to just make the at bats long, and he still made pitches and got outs and did a nice job. But it definitely built his pitch count.
So there you go. That was some of the comments from Craig Counsell after the game. But, again, they didn't get they couldn't play to run. So, I mean, you can talk about Freddie Peralta all you want, but when you don't play to run, pitch counts and all the other stuff, it's nice to talk about. It's good discussions personally for Freddie, but it doesn't mean anything. For Freddie, it does, but for the rest of the team and wins and losses, it doesn't mean anything. You didn't score a run. When you had opportunities, you couldn't play to run. And this team, since the unofficial second half of the season began, they started out on fire. This whole hitting meeting and players meeting and such, it really seemed to put a spark in this team. And then they made the trade. And it's like everything, it just took the wind out of the sails. It just took the wind out of their sails. And it's just unbelievably disappointing. Austin says, same story, different day. Home run or bust with this offense. Steve says this team rebuild will be a team that the team's rebuild will be a team that will play to play, but not challenge for anything. A low talent, low payroll. If winning the World Series is out of sight, then lower the beer and food prices so the fans still want to come out. I'm not going to spend money on overpriced tickets, beer, and food. And that's the thing, is that people are still going to the games. It's not like people have just completely given up. I mean, attendance is a little down, but they're still going to put well over 2.5 million or 2 million people in the turnstiles this year. And that's because people ask me all the time, is this a baseball state because of the fanaticism for the Packers and for the Badgers in football? My answer always is yes, it's a baseball state. Now, is it the number one sport? No. But anywhere I go, number one is Packers, number two is Brewers. After that, it trickles down. I think Badgers football is huge. I think Bucks basketball is really kind of come on in this short period of time. Obviously, winning will help that. And I do want to get into the whole Giannis comment because I think it's the overreaction by people is crazy and ridiculous. But it just, to me, yeah, I think it's a baseball town. I think it's a baseball state. Brewers fans love to come because wherever you come from. Doesn't matter if you come from Tomahawk, from Shawano, from Platteville, from Viroqua, doesn't matter. If you come over from Madison, you're going to see a game. You know that. And in the comfort and the confines that is American Family Field. So it's not a chance. Now, whether or not your tailgate party gets rained out, that's a different story. But, you're going to see a game. That stadium has been a godsend to keep that team afloat. But we went through the payrolls a little earlier. The Dodgers have outspent the Brewers by the Brewers payroll almost $120 million more than the Brewers. What do you do? It's not all money. It's talent acquisition, and it's finding guys to play well together. But you took the wind out of the sails when you traded away Josh Hader. Certainly did. We'll get back to the phones. We'll get to the phones when we come back. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
A training camp update. In Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers making changes on the offensive line. They're considering Elton Jenkins at right tackle. That's a good sign that they think that David Bakhtiari will be back at some point at left tackle. Tight end Robert Tonyan is back at practice, slowly getting ready for some contact after recovering from a torn ACL.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely need to get hit for sure. I think that'll come with time as I progress into more football stuff and team stuff. But, yeah, definitely would like to get hit a couple times, that's for sure.
Is there anyone on this defense you don't want to be the first one to hit you?
Probably Rashawn Gary. He's the only person I wouldn't let hit me. Everyone else I'll let hit me.
The Packers added another tight end, Nate Becker, 6'5", 264 pounds. He's been with the Lions, the Bills, and the Panthers. The Saints are here for 2 days of joint practices. Before leaving New Orleans, the Saints' new head coach, Dennis Allen, was asked on why he accepted the Packers' invitation to spend the week here before Friday night's game at Lambeau.
There's a couple factors that went into that. You know, going up to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and getting out of this heat down here is a big factor. You know, and then obviously getting an opportunity to work against, you know, a Super Bowl contending team work against, a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, so there's a lot of things about that were intriguing to us. And so we're excited about, getting up there and going to work against those guys.
Now, the Packers have hosted the Texans and the Jets in joint practices since Matt LaFleur took over in Green Bay.
We've done this the last couple of years, so you kind of have like a format. We tweak it every time, and certainly if there's things that, Dennis wants, then we accommodate, and vice versa. So no, it should be good work, the next 2 days.
That's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Real quick, I got a great note from a couple of people that were going to the Wisconsin State Fair last week, and they said, we stopped by the Wrestling Taco. This is from James and his wife, Kelly. Stopped by the Wrestling Taco and had a great time. Marcus and his wife were fantastic people, had a lot of fun, and you were right, the margaritas were really, really good. And then he's got in parentheses, kind of strong, but great. And so anyway, I've been telling you about the Wrestling Taco for a long time, right there on 84th Street, just south of the Wisconsin State Fair Park, whether it's going before or after a Brewers game or just a weekend, whatever it happens to be. The Wrestling Taco on 84th Street in West Dallas, great place to go. After the top of the hour, the Packers have now taken the field. They are out there for their practice, so that means Matt LaFleur has already spoken. We're going to hear from the head coach of the Green Bay Packers about his thoughts going into today's contest or today's practice, shall we say, today and then tomorrow. And then obviously they play them on Friday night at Lambeau Field. We'll be there live and in person for that. But nevertheless, we'll hear from him. Just kind of following up, and I had posted this over on the Facebook fan page, and I'll run this out there on Twitter as well. But, the question was posed to me, and I had to look at this honestly and say, are the Brewers right now closer to a World Series or kind of a rebuild? And well, first and foremost, man, the comments have poured in. Ryan says we're closer to a World Series prior to the trade deadline, but now closer to a rebuild. Brian says, I only say rebuild because time is running out before they won't be able to afford Woodruff and Burns. Those pitchers are only the only thing keeping them from being a bad baseball team. Brad says closer to a World Series, but front office looks like it's a rebuild, which is really an indictment of the front office. John says rebuild is the answer, but I'm holding my breath every time a ground ball is hit to the infielders that they make the play and we can get to a World Series. Justin says rebuild as always. I love Craig, but this team needs a fresh face. If they're not going to be, if there is not going to be a cap, then we need a coach who can, attack, and a general manager who can deal for the future. Aaron says the rebuild started 2 weeks ago. Jesse says they're wasting Woodruff and Burns. Brandon says rebuild UGG. Dennis, rebuild with a new coach. Here's the thing with the whole Craig Counsell thing. And then it goes on. Stacy, Eugene, Terry, Sean, all say rebuild. John, different John, says neither. Not enough talent for a World Series and no indication of a complete teardown or rebuild. And then John Scott says World Series, but you got to call up fresh bats and you need more offensive firepower. So the bottom line for most people is you want to believe you're close to a World Series. The reality is a lot of people don't have belief in this team because they feel the front office doesn't have belief in this team. And you think it's only a matter of time before the other two big dollar arms are gone. And we all know it's about pitching. So that's the argument that, yeah, we believe, we feel like we were close, but the front office took the wind out of our sails. And this trade for Hader, no matter how, the old adage is, you can put perfume on it, you can paint it, you can polish it, but a turd's a turd. And the deal was a turd. It's turned out to be. And no matter how you want to dress it up, it was basically getting rid of money because you didn't want to pay the guy. And you might have done it a little too soon, sending the message to the rest of the clubhouse that, yeah, we're really not thinking we're going to win anything, so we might as well go ahead and start making these moves now. and start throwing darts at a dartboard to see if any of these guys are going to start to pan out. I've always said prospects suck. It's great to get them if you're in the midst of a rebuild, because then you stockpile as many as you can. But when you think you're going for it and you're getting prospects back, no. Never a good thing. When we come back, stay right where you're at. You're going to hear from the head coach, Matt LaFleur, because today the Saints are in town. And the practices, well, you can assume at some point or another they're going to be spirited, as they say. Stay tuned. Got a lot more coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, last night, the Los Angeles Dodgers would blank the Milwaukee Brewers as the Crew would fall 4-0 at American Family Field. The Brewers would only collect 4 hits on the night, while starting pitcher Freddie Peralta would go 4 innings, giving a solo shot to Freddie Freeman, while Gavin Lux added a 2-run blast against Hobie Milner in the 6th. Milwaukee now sits 2 games back of the Cardinals for first place in the NL Central and are back at it tonight against the Dodgers. First pitch is at 7:10. To the NFL, good news for the Packers. Elton Jenkins, Robert Tonyan, and Christian Watson were activated off the PUP list and now are back at practice. Here's more from head coach Matt LaFleur.
Well, it was definitely a shot in the arm for our team. I think just even though it was, just the jog through portion and individual, I thought they looked good. So we'll see. Hopefully they can, again, continue to get a little bit better and stronger and healthier and more confident each and every day.
Up next for the Packers, they'll host the Saints at Lambeau Field on Friday for preseason game number 2, their first game, week 1, September 11th, against the Minnesota Vikings at U.S. Bank Stadium.
Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Wisconsin football will be one of 4 Big Ten teams to start the season inside the AP Top 25. The poll released yesterday saw the Badgers sitting at number 18. It's the 6th season in a row that Wisconsin has been ranked in the preseason and the 12th time in the last 13 years. Ohio State is at number 2, Michigan number 8, and Michigan State sits at 15. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Bill Michaels Show. Talked a lot of Brewers in the first hour of the program. We are glad you are with us. The question that was posed to me, and I never really did give an honest answer, I guess. And I should. I was called out on it during the break. But I posted it on both Facebook over on the fan page and on Twitter. There was a poll question and a Q&A over on Facebook, poll question on Twitter. But within the next 3 years, are the Brewers closer to a World Series appearance or a rebuild? A World Series appearance or a rebuild? And a lot of people on Facebook seem to say they thought they could get to the World Series this year, but after the trade, it seems like the team's kind of fallen apart. And I would tend to agree with that. I think you still have the opportunity in this offseason. I really believe this. In this offseason, but by the way, I don't think they're going to a World Series this year. And I don't think I'm throwing a bucket of cold water on anybody's optimism at this point, because I think you're probably there already if you haven't realized that. You know, Marcus says they're closer to being merely a 500 ball club. Aaron says the rebuild started a couple of weeks ago, and it goes on from there. There's so many more people. Carmelo says, hell, I think they're getting ready to leave town, which that's not going to happen anytime soon. But if I had to choose, because of what happened with Josh Hader and the fact that they basically said, we'll take prospects and a couple of dudes and we're going to get the most we can and call it a day, because they didn't want to pay him. Or maybe I shouldn't say didn't want to. They'd love to keep him. They couldn't afford to keep him. That was a gut punch. As a fan, that was a gut punch. Because they paid, I'm not saying that they don't have money. They paid Christian Yelich, and Christian Yelich is a wild disappointment. And if Christian Yelich stays on this path again this season, he's a complete bust. And now I really start to question the numbers that he put up, to be quite honest with you. So I would say they're probably closer to a rebuild, because you've got a terrific pitching staff and you've had the opportunity to really go for it. And instead you have to do it cautiously. And we're also sitting here looking at the Dodgers as the best team in baseball, who are spending double what the Brewers are. Double what the Brewers are. And in the inequities in baseball, sometimes you got to look at it and go, either you catch lightning in a bottle or you're always chasing. So you're probably closer to a rebuild, unfortunately. So to answer your question, but the poll question's up. All you got to do is find it. 43 votes are in. 90.7 of you say rebuild. 90.7% of you say rebuild so far, but that's the poll question. So there you go. We've got some news in the world of football, just an FYI, a couple of different things. The Packers are making some roster moves. Their roster stands now at 84. And the Packers have room for one more addition. The Packers have released linebacker Ellis Brooks. He was the undrafted rookie from Penn State. They let him go. And in addition to that, the Packers also, which is a little bit surprising, not a lot, but a little bit, they let go of Dominic Daphne, the running back B.J. Taylor, and the offensive lineman George Moore. So that plus Brooks, they're down to now 84, which means they can bring somebody back if they choose to do so. But Dominic Daphne, I thought he might make the squad, but the fact that Robert Tonyan has come back and looked good, it says a lot. So they didn't really need him. And I know he was a bubble guy. We talked about that with Mike Clemens not that long ago about whether or not Dominic Daphne was long for this world. And sure enough, the Packers have made that decision. So you got Josiah DeGuara, who's that guy. They still have Sal Cannella, Nate Becker, Tyler Davis, and Robert Tonyan, Mercedes Lewis, and such. But Josiah DeGuara, Mercedes Lewis, Robert Tonyan, and Tonyan back being healthy, those are the three guys most likely going to be your quote tight end, so to speak. So there you go.
Bill, I really can't believe they released Baylor. He was the guy that caught that 60-yard swing pass from Danny Etling.
Well, you hope that, he just didn't run fast enough during that swing pass, because otherwise...
Maybe if Etling has let him, if he let him further down the field and he could have scored instead of having to wait for the ball, then maybe he would be on the team.
Yep.
One of those deals.
Maybe. But he is now gone as well. So there you go. Chad says, by the way, Yelich would have been better to underhand balls from the outfield. He can't hit or even throw. I saw last night, and the term noodle arm came up. Christian Yelich, he was never a detriment in the outfield. He was never, he never had this cannon of an arm. Okay. I'm never going to say that he did, but he looked more the part. Now, either he has really bad back issues that we're just not privy to, or something else has gone on here. He looks he's kind of like a shell of himself as to what he once was from years gone by. I would agree. I don't get I understand you go through an injury, you come through with a little bit of a drop off, but man, the average has fallen. He's now sitting at like 250, something like that. It's just been bad. It's just been bad. Like 0 for 25 in his last 25 plate appearances. 7, 8 strikeouts, only 2-3 walks. Just there's nothing there. No big power. None of that. None of that's really happening. So it's really disappointing. And Ben, are you now sitting there still contemplating the 15 home run level for Christian Yelich?
Oh, it's over. I was going to issue an official statement once you got done with that. The bet's over. It's not happening.
There's no way.
And even
15.
I would go as far as to say I was a big proponent of moving him to the leadoff spot, and it worked for a given amount of time. He hit 286 in July and looked pretty solid.
Right.
Since August has come around, just has not found anything. It's time to move him down.
He
can't go 0 for 12 against the Cardinals in a big series.
He did this last year where he did that streak in the middle of July, got hot, and everybody said, oh, he's back. And then he tailed off second week of August, just like this year, and really kind of blue cheese ever since. Christian Yelich, since 2019, where he hit 44 home runs in one season. He hit 80 home runs in 2 seasons. 80 home runs. Since then, he's hit 29 home runs in 3 years. Something happened. He got the contract, had the knee injury. After that, nothing. He was a 7.1 and a 7.6 WAR player. Now he's a 1.8 WAR player. I mean, you go back to 2014, he was 3.6, 3.5 in 2015, 5.3 in 16, 3.9 in 17. 7.6 in 18, 7.1 in 19, 0.1 in 2020, 1.3 in 2021, 1.8 in 2022. He's awful. He's awful. If this is the way it stays for the remainder of the season, he is a fielder's choice Jeff Suppan. I'm not saying it was the wrong deal, because at the time you needed to sign him, and it was a great thing and a shot in the arm for the organization. But Christian Yelich, not the organization, Christian Yelich has failed this organization miserably. Miserably. Just has. Then you look, you're right. Worst contract, Yelich or Tatis Jr. Oh, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Talk about a breaking news story. When I was sitting in a bar last week, almost spit my beer out on that one.
It was my last 4 minutes on air for the week, and Jeff Passan dropped it as I was signing off. And, I was getting excited to go out and not be on radio anymore. It's one of those deals. It's one player that's been on the field constantly and can't play well, and one terrific player who's such an idiot off the field that he can't even get back on it.
Right.
I don't know which is worse.
And I'm getting this via email right now. I've got it from 2 different people and a couple of different comments. Is that the belief is that Yelich got his contract via some kind of substance, had tremendous seasons, got the money. And the reason, again, like Ryan Braun took less money, was because the numbers were juiced. He got his money. Now you don't take the juice anymore, and you're back to being an average ball player. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. But in baseball, there's always that perception becoming reality, because unless players do it consistently, you get better each and every year to where you hit your apex and you just continually play well. Even if you have a drop off, you go from 44 home runs down to 35 or 32. That's one thing. You go from 44 to 10, 44 to 8. Come on, man. Eyebrows are raised, and you cannot point the finger at a Brewers fan or a baseball fan and say, no, you're wrong. You got no proof. You got no proof. You're right. But we've seen over and over and over and over again, guys come on, play extremely well, get the contract, raise an eyebrow because they're doing things they've never done before. And then all of a sudden, the minute they get the money, right into the crapper. Right into the crapper. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just simply saying perception becomes reality in many people's minds. Let's do this. When we come back, we're going to hear from the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, Matt LaFleur, as his team just took the practice field against the New Orleans Saints. That's coming up. It's a great discussion, but it's a lot of speculation when it comes to Christian Yelich and what's going on there. And I'm not saying that the Brewers are losing because of Christian Yelich. That's not what I'm saying either. He's a part of the problem. There's no doubt about it. When you have a terrific middle of July, only to see it completely tail off to nothingness, over as it continues to mount. I mean, come on. And you're not even going to approach, unless you go on some kind of a binge, you're not even going to approach 15 home runs. That's a disgrace. This whole thing about launch angle and exit velocity, you know what it is? Take your butt, go to the bathroom, and take all those statistics, and you know what to do with it. Because it's crap. It's all crap. I don't want to hear about it anymore. He's got the highest contact launch exit velocity rate of any. Shut up. He's still 0 for 25. And in the biggest series, when you need him the most, nothing. Stop it. That's the reason the sabermetrics and all the different numbers that people want to throw at you, that's fine. You can tweak them any way you want, but it is what it is. Wins, results simply aren't there. This portion of the program brought to you by the way, I failed to mention our friends at Buzzard Billy's when I was talking about all the different sponsors we have regarding the motorcycle ride. And I got a nice note from Carl who said, hey, if you're coming out to La Crosse, go to Buzzard Billy's. We'll see you over there. I will be there. It's most likely going to be tomorrow evening at some point. I'm going to stop in real quick on my way back to the Milwaukee area. But I love going in. They got pepper jack cheese bites, and I love those things. So I go in there, and I usually get those. They've got some really good poutine, too. Oh, that's awesome stuff. The poutine, so good. But usually they've got a blackened shrimp salad that I'll go in there, and I'll grab that. Eat light. They do have some really good pastas and such, and traditional kind of Cajun Creole dinners. But for the most part, that's my go-tos when I go into Buzzard Billy's and I get myself a margarita. But I'm going to stop by there tomorrow and say hi to the staff and the management. So I encourage you, Buzzard Billy's in La Crosse, great place, and they do a lot of good things. And the Starlight Lounge, which is right upstairs. You can go upstairs and visit that as well. But I'll be doing that tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Stay tuned. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
I give that a 2.99.
Okay. Hey, Dad.
What's wrong?
That woman over there. Don't look.
What did she do?
She judged my dive. Gave it a 2.99. Isn't that weird?
Hey, that's Gina Della from Pella. I'm going to find out what this is all about. Excuse me. Why are you judging my daughter's diving? I know who you are.
I'm sorry? Judging?
Yeah, she said you yelled out.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about her. I was finalizing this month's special at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. That's funny.
What's special?
Pay only 2.99% interest for 10 years.
On new Pella windows. Really? 10 years?
Yep.
But it's the middle of summer. You can't get a deal on installing new windows during the warmest season.
You can at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Oh, 2.99.
Dad?
Oh, not you, sweetheart. The deal at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. 2.99% for 10 years.
Visit PellaWI.com.
Catch all the racing action at Road America. Camping and corporate events available as well. Go to roadamerica.com for all the information. Road America, America's national park of speed.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
you see it carry over. So just thought it was best to operate the way we are, where we go right to team. And, I think we're on the same page. It's pretty much the same script as last year against the Jets.
Will Jenkins and Watson and Tunyon participate in these?
They will not. Just part of individual.
From your perspective, what do you guys get out of these joint practice experiences in comparison to an actual exhibition game if they played a few series or something like that?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's a great opportunity. Like I mentioned before, it's much more controlled. I also think just getting a different look is important because a lot of these, it sounds like there's a lot of game planning that's going on, prior to these practices. So it really forces you to hone in on your rules and follow your rules as a player to make sure, because throughout the course of the season, throughout the course of the preseason, certainly there's going to be a lot of unscouted looks. So it makes you just kind of stay sharp on what your rules and responsibilities are.
You said it would be the same script as last year, but how much did you collaborate with Dennis and meet with him about kind of jointly putting the script together?
Yeah, we spent as much time as needed. Certainly, I talked to him again yesterday, but we had talked a few times throughout the course of this, just in terms of all the logistics going on, in terms of what time we start, how many periods, what's the D&Ds, the personnel. So just making sure that both sides were happy with it.
Did you incorporate anything from his usual practice script, or do you guys pretty much overlap with everything?
Yeah, I would say that, there was definitely some things that we implemented that we talked about.
Sorry, is Melvin sticking to his right tackle for now?
That's day to day, so we'll see.
Are there going to be any call-it periods, or is everything kind of scripted these days?
No, I mean, you could, in some regards, you could say everything is kind of unscripted in terms of, because you really have no idea what the opposition is going to do outside of the personnel groupings. So, but no, there are going to be some move the ball, call it, and we're going to let the officials officiate it. We're lucky that we have 2 crews here, so hopefully that'll help control the practice a little bit more. And I think it's going to be a great experience for our guys also having the officials here, kind of trying to understand how they see certain things, making sure that we're using proper technique and staying disciplined with that technique.
Matt, will you break it down whether you have a blitz period, a red zone period, goal line period, things like that? Will you do 2 minutes?
Yeah, all of the above. So we're going to start out with our run, play, pass period, which is all first down. Then we're going to transition to a third down period, which is going to be quite a challenge, I would say, for the offenses involved. Just some of the D&Ds that we picked are going to, the deck is stacked against them a little bit, but it'll be good. It'll be great. And then transition to the red zone. Then we'll have the move the ball period, and then finish with the 2 minute. And then, we'll see how the practice goes, potentially a developmental period at the end as well. Another move the ball call it.
Will these be more tailored to your starters and second team guys because of the preseason game on Friday?
Yeah, I would say we're really only going 2 groups. So it's your starters, and then it's the 2s and 3s are going to be the second group.
Coach, what do you hope the rookies gain from these joint practices?
Well, I think every time you go out there and practice is another learning experience. And then just to see compete against different people, experience a different scheme. I mean, certainly in all 3 phases, we're all a little bit different. And so I think it'll be good for them. Just like I mentioned earlier, just making sure they're on top of their rules, because we didn't spend a whole lot of time watching New Orleans Saints film. I mean, they might have peaked it a little bit in a meeting, but there wasn't, I would say, a whole lot of time just dedicated to that.
Now, with how good the defense has been against your own offense this training camp, what is the expectation level for them now that they're going up against a competing offense?
I mean, the expectation level is the same every time they go out there. It's to give their best and to make sure that they're doing the things that they can control, the communication, how we fly to the football. It'll be fun to see how, conversely, how a great Saints defense plays on the other side of the ball, how they attack the football. So it's just, again, every time you go out there, you want to put your best stuff out there for everybody to see. There's going to be a lot of, certainly our whole scouting department's here. Their whole scouting department's going to be there. So it's going to be a good opportunity for all our guys to have a lot of eyes on them throughout the course of practice and see how they compete for 2+ hours.
Matt, is the idea for both you guys to have the ones go against each other, the twos go through?
Yeah, it'll be good and good.
Matt, did you guys keeping that robot thing around? It was out of practice.
What did you think of the robot?
That was pretty cool.
So did I. I will say we better get a discount. That's a lot of publicity that Monarch has gained through this. Yeah.
When did you learn about that as a thing?
A couple weeks ago, after the infamous press conference.
Did someone contact you, or did you go do some research?
No, that was all. Russ Ball and our equipment staff did a great job of kind of looking into things, and that's what they found. So a lot of our players, I didn't realize how many of our players had experience with that machine before. So I guess they're pretty prevalent throughout some of the major college programs, and then some of these guys shoot. I think I saw that. Does Adrian have his own? So these guys have definitely seen them before or used them during camps or whenever it may be.
Have you gotten on the receiving end of one of those yet?
I did. Pre-practice, yeah.
But
you guys missed it.
But you hadn't experienced it from your college coaching or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's relatively new. So I think they said they started in like 16 or whatever, and just kind of last couple of years got those models out.
How well do you know Dennis Allen? Like before all this happened, did you know him well, hardly at all?
Not particularly well. I know he knows some of our coaches pretty well, but he's a guy that certainly I've always had a ton of respect for. I mean, he's been doing it at a high level in this league for a long time, and you just watch when he was the defensive coordinator, obviously in New Orleans, just how the defense plays, the mentality they play with, and I think you got to give him a lot of credit for that.
Obviously, you knew Robert, fairly well.
I'd say so.
Yeah, I'd say so too. So has this been any more challenging bringing these practices together with someone who you don't really know? Or
not particularly. I would say it's as long as the communication's there, and we've communicated great, and he's been awesome to talk to, and it's been great.
Hey, Matt, on Friday night, there were a couple of throws that Jordan had in the flats that were off target a little bit. Is that something with his footwork or routes, not running correctly, or what? How do you get him to complete those or get those, right on?
Yeah, I think definitely if you talk to Jordan, I think those are a couple of those he'd definitely like to have back. Just looking at it, like what we could have done better, probably wasn't the best way to run it because a couple of those reads kind of got muddied up based on our formation, but and just how the technique that the defense was playing with forced our tight end to kind of arc his release and kind of got in the window, and not to make excuses for it because you still got to make those throws. And but yeah, there's room for improvement from everybody, I would say.
So can I just follow up? If that route isn't perfectly run, do you expect the quarterback to adjust to that and complete it anyway, or is he thrown into a spot and the running back's got to get to it?
No, I think the expectation is that you have to adjust. I mean, that's just the name of the game. So you have to be able to adjust, and you might not be in the perfect body position every time, but you got to finish your throw and throw it accurately. That's just part of the job.
There you go. Matt LaFleur talking to the media, getting his team ready to head out on the field to take on the New Orleans Saints in practice. Practice has begun, by the way, and so far, the offensive front for the Saints have not been able to hang with the defensive front of the Packers. Packers have been all over Andy Dalton. The only down note is Jordan Love threw the first interception of the day on a deep pass. So that's the update from up there at Lambeau Field. Let's do this. We're going to step away, take a quick break, come back. Got a lot more to get to. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. It's not this Wednesday. It is the 24th. I think it's the 24th. I'm going to have to check to be sure, to be actually honest with you. But it's either the 24th or the 31st. Now I'm scratching my head. But Wednesday Night Live will be back one more time this year. We'll be there on stage promoting the motorcycle ride, but it's the Toys Revisited. Looking forward to it. All brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. And Bud Light also, they have been with us as the primary beer sponsor and the exclusive beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network for 15 years with our motorcycle ride. We can't say thanks enough to them and our friends from over there at Bud Light for being a part of the program. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I drove past yesterday. I was on 94. I was coming back from Johnson Creek. And I looked over, and the renovations continue. And I know they had a little bit of a setback because of some zoning issues, but they're now fully rolling on our friends Jeff and Alicia and the gang over at Stoley's Hog Alley. And that place is completely gutted and being rebuilt and still open, doing a great job. But, man, I can't wait for that place to be completed. It's going to look fantastic. But in the meantime, continue to support local, continue to support great people. And that is Jeff and Alicia Stoll at Stoley's Hog Alley right there in Summit, Oconomowoc. Or if you want to go to Stoll's Old 109, now that they did that place right. I love going there. And Stoll's Old 109 up in Watertown. Either place, same owners, same great people. Same great service and really good food. And I can't recommend either one anymore. They're just awesome people to even be involved with. And that's our friends at Stoley's Hog Alley and Stoll's Old 109. Either place, wonderful, guaranteed a good time, guaranteed to be treated right. And if not, by all means, get a hold of Jeff and Alicia because they will make sure that you are indeed treated correctly. The Packers on the practice field, a lot of stuff going on today. The Packers make a couple of cuts. They get down to 45 today. And Dominic Daphne, the more noted cut, the tight end. And so anyway, long story short is it's one of those things where the Packers trying to make a couple of moves, leaving a roster spot open, always leaving themselves some flexibility. The defensive front against the Saints today has looked nothing short of fantastic by all means. And they look really, really good. Jordan Love had a few struggles for the most part. Hey, here's one thing, and I didn't even mention this today. So yesterday I get a call and it's from a very good friend, Eric Goodman. And I've had Eric on before at Mile High Sports out in Denver. And he said, hey, I want to pick your brain for a minute. I said, sure, give me a call. I was in the midst of a bunch of different conference calls and stuff. And so him and I started talking. He said, how much do you think the Green Bay Packers are going to miss Nathaniel Hackett? And I paused for a minute and I thought, obviously Nathaniel Hackett had a really good relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously is the assistant, play caller, so to speak, the offensive coordinator. But more so, I think the relationship and behind closed doors they're going to miss. And I said, why? And he said, Nathaniel Hackett is nothing short of amazing. And I said, what do you mean? He said, he's a guy that he said, first of all, I've never seen a head coach give high fives and hug as many players coming off the field as I've seen with Nathaniel Hackett. He's unbelievably genuine. He's a bit quirky, but he's got the personality that fits with everybody. And I said, well, that's kind of natural. I mean, this is a guy, Aaron Rodgers is not the easiest guy to get on that same mental level plane with, that mentality. And they really meshed. They had a really good working relationship. And I said, Nathaniel Hackett was one of the guys that could get in the rear end of Aaron Rodgers and chew him out. And Rodgers respected it. Tom Clemens is another guy. I think Matt LaFleur is there now. But Nathaniel Hackett had that ability. He said, oh, yeah. He said, Nathaniel Hackett's gotten on Russell Wilson numerous times for just quit throwing the ball downfield, quit hanging onto the football, take what the defense gives you, keep moving the offense down the field. I mean, so it got me thinking a little bit. I thought, boy, I know Tom Clements coming back is going to have just as tremendous an impact on Aaron Rodgers as anything. But I thought, I wonder what the loss, the friendship loss, the behind the scenes loss, the behind closed doors loss, Nathaniel Hackett will mean to the offense for the Green Bay Packers and to Matt LaFleur as a confidant. I remember when Joe Philbin left. And I remember I sat down and I talked with Rodgers at the time because Mike McCarthy called all the plays. And Joe Philbin, as we all know, he took a head coaching job and left and went off to Miami. But at the time, I said, Joe really didn't call the plays. He said, but Joe was so big behind closed doors. Joe was the guy that set up the meeting room. Joe was the guy that we went to with all of our questions. And if he couldn't answer it, he broke it down for us and would find the answers. And if we could collaborate with somebody, it was Joe. If we could talk about different ideas, different approaches, if plays didn't feel right, we could go to Joe and say, man, this isn't working. What else can we do? And Joe always had an alternative. Joe was never a no man or do it this way anyway, man. He was always a guy that would kind of, be that buffer for us. And you got the sense that you need that guy between the head coach, who is the play caller, and the quarterback and the offense, who are the executioners. You got to have something in between to say, hey, this may or may not work. We need a better solution, a better alternative. We need to listen to the guys that are on the field trying to work this. And that's what was Joe Philbin. I wonder if Nathaniel Hackett was that guy as well, and how much Tom Clements is now going to fill that role. But I'm just throwing it out there, and there's no real answer to this. But I just thought it was really, really interesting when I got the call that kind of came out of the blue to say, oh, my God, thank you for allowing Nathaniel Hackett to interview with the Denver Broncos and then ultimately to become the head coach, because they absolutely positively love him. Now, they haven't played a game yet. They haven't lost a game yet. They haven't won a game yet. Who knows if Justin Uten is going to be the real deal behind Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator, whether or not Evero is going to be a good defensive coordinator. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen out there? But they feel they've really, with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and company, KJ Hamler, they feel that they've got, Tyree Cleveland. They feel they've got really a good stable of weapons for Russell Wilson to throw to, and they're ready to make some hay in that very tough AFC West. So anyway, I digress, but I just thought it was rather interesting when we sit here and talk about the Green Bay Packers a little bit.
Bill, there's also the part of that where we talk all the time about what Clements means for Rodgers.
Right.
I feel like we haven't talked enough about what he could mean for Love down the road, whether, how much he harps on fundamentals and footwork and that stuff, whether we could see that pay off 2-3 years if Love becomes starter.
That's the other thing, because we heard so much about so far this camp about Love, how he's changed his base, his footwork looks better, he's more confident. And I said, well, let's wait and see what we see on the field. And it was Jordan Love. He looked a little better, but we're still talking about his footwork. I mean, Eric Baranchek broke it down brilliantly, I thought, yesterday, in his footwork and his base, and where he crossed his feet a couple of times, threw off balance a couple of times. And he doesn't have the veteran savvy know-how like Rodgers, or I think the arm strength of Rodgers, to be able to just kind of snap it when he throws off the back foot on the run. I don't think he has that. So he's going to have a whole new different set of skill set, of fundamentals. Because if he thinks he's going to go out there and do what Aaron Rodgers does, he's full of crap. So he needs to be able to say, okay, I've mastered the fundamentals. And then once I get comfortable throwing the ball and doing things that way, then I can improv a little bit. By the way, did you see our buddy Zach Heilprin shows video and he's got Packers legend Taysom Hill walking out of the practice facility doors onto the field. He's got a video of that. So
Taysom Hill versus Danny Etling. That's the training camp battle to watch.
That's the one I would say Taysom Hill even more versus Jordan Love, but I think people crucify me for that.
I thought Etling was the backup. Sorry.
Well, Yeah, we'll see. The backups to the backups right now are all playing pretty well in the National Football League against the 4s and 5s. So who really knows? Our friends Paul Robert and the gang at Robert Specialty Meats, they encourage you to remember this. Two things. One, it doesn't matter if summer's over or not. Summer is still grilling season, but there is nothing better than football and tailgating as well. So don't forget, you got Robert Specialty Meats, whether it's ribs on a stick, it's the Parmesan, the garlic Parmesan chicken skewers, the Al Capone roast, the Al Capone sausages, the hot Italians, which is what we love, or all of their deli specials like the baked potato salad, which is fantastic. I didn't even know they had it. I got it and took it with us out to Sturgis. Oh, I just ate that stuff in the middle of the night. It was so good. That stuff's good as well. Go to Robert's Specialty Meats in Waukesha on Sunset Drive or Robert's Specialty Meats Waukesha.com. Robert's Specialty Meats Waukesha.com. And here's the other news. They cater too. They do a lot of events. So if you're looking for somebody just to come out and supply ribs on a stick, some good meat, some good roast, some good sausages, grilling them up for you, putting them in some really cool sauces, these are the guys to go to. Paul Roberts and the gang at Roberts Specialty Meats. Go to Roberts Specialty Meats Waukesha.com. That is Roberts Specialty Meats Waukesha.com. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others, time in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine. A place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, a training camp update. In Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers making some roster moves to get down to 85 players by today, including releasing backup center Cole Schneider out of Central Florida. And they released linebacker Randy Ramsey, who suffered a severe ankle injury last year in training camp and has struggled so far this year. They got some players back on the field during yesterday's jog through. Robert Tonyan, rookie receiver Christian Watson, and Elton Jenkins coming back from a torn ACL, taking half-speed reps at right tackle. Head coach Matt LaFleur.
Well, it was definitely a shot in the arm for our team. I think just even though it was, just the jog through portion and individual, I thought they looked good. So we'll see. Hopefully they can, again, continue to get a little bit better and stronger and healthier and more confident each and every day.
Now, LaFleur says he wants to make it clear he wants no fighting during joint practices today and tomorrow with the Saints. I talked to Packers center Josh Myers.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be something that's discussed in our team meeting, but as far as like amongst peers, like around the facility, it just doesn't really come up much,
But there is extra juice in those joint practices.
Definitely. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that's another NFL team in Green Bay. So, yeah, definitely.
The Saints have wide receiver Michael Thomas back from last year's ankle surgery, and they signed veteran safety Tyrann Mathieu in May. Quarterback Jameis Winston dealing with a foot injury he suffered last week. So that means Andy Dalton, who's been with the Bengals, the Cowboys, and the Bears, will now be under center for New Orleans. What does he think of joint practices?
I've done it a couple times in my career. It's good work. I think it gets a time in camp where you've been seeing the same guys over and over, same defenses, same group, and it's good to go compete against another team and kind of see where you're at. And so it'll be fun to go up there to Green Bay.
That's Saints backup quarterback Andy Dalton in Green Bay. I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Hey, our friends up at Forgotten Fire Winery. Great place. Love that place. And got to get back up that way. I haven't been up to WMAM in a while. I'm in Menominee Marinette and hang out in Peshtigo. But if you are in the area, they're doing a lot of cool stuff. And they've got bands on the weekend. They've done some fundraisers. I saw last weekend they were doing some stuff for the firefighters up there. Every weekend it seems like they've got food and they've got wine tastings and they've got music. And it's just a small winery just making the best of it. And they're kicking ass. And I love the fact that they just say, we're winning awards and we've got gold medals everywhere, but we don't care because we just want people to enjoy what it is we do. That is ForgottenFireWinery.com, ForgottenFireWinery.com. Love that place. Say hi to everybody up there, Melissa and Chris and everybody. They're just good people. And stop in and tell them we said hi. But look for it and just keep them afloat. They're Wisconsin-based, man. Go to your grocery store, your liquor store, your wine store. Ask for it by name. Forgotten Fire Winery. ForgottenFireWinery.com in Peshtigo. And if you're in Peshtigo, walk in and say, hey, give me the Bill Michaels deal. What is it? And they'll tell you they've got a different special just if you hear it on this program. Go in and ask for it. Don't forget. Coming up next, Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, going to be joining us. That is coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers took the field this morning in the first of two joint practices with the Saints at training camp. In recent years, brawls have broken out around the league at these joint practices. So Packers coach Matt LaFleur and New Orleans coach Dennis Allen agreed not to do any one-on-one drills during either practice.
These guys are competitors, man, and that's what we love about them. But sometimes, that's where tempers start to flare and you see it carry over. So just thought it was best to operate the way we are, where we go right to team. And, I think we're on the same page.
The two teams will be back in the field tomorrow and then face each other Friday night in preseason action at Lambeau Field. During the Badgers, they will be practicing tonight inside Camp Randall Stadium. Yesterday, they learned that they would start the season at number 18 in the AP Top 25. It's a sixth straight season. They're ranked to start the year. Meanwhile, star running back Braylon Allen held out of practice yesterday. UW said he's nicked up, and they're just being cautious with him. Wisconsin will open the season 2 weeks from Saturday against Illinois State.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, the Brewers got shut out 4-0 by the Dodgers last night. They have now lost 9 of the last 13 games, dropped them 2 games back of St. Louis for first place in the NL Central. They're going to face L.A. again tonight at American Family Field. First pitch there is set for 7:10. And the Wisconsin basketball team finished its French tour 4-0 after a win in Nice yesterday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
That fast, we're into hour number 3 of the Bill Michaels Show. Good to have you along today. For those of you watching on the Bud Light live stream, certainly appreciate it. Those of you listening in parts unknown, we also appreciate you being a part of the program as well. Good stuff. Joining us now here, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the preseason, some things to expect. We can even look at roster stuff. Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus. You can find him at PFF_Brad and overthecap.com. Good stuff there as well. Brad, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
We're doing great. So let me start off by asking, this is fantasy time. So all of a sudden you're starting to look at all these different players in different fantasy leagues, guillotine leagues, all that kind of stuff. So if you're going to start looking at some of these guys and some of these storylines coming into this season, not just as a fantasy player, but some of the bigger storylines coming into the season, what are they? If you're going to sit down and you're going to be, as a writer, pen the top 10 stories coming into the season, what would they be?
Yeah, from a fantasy standpoint, I think maybe the most fascinating story right now is Alvin Kamara with New Orleans Saints. He had a legal issue this offseason and has been postponing and delaying the actual case coming forward. And so there's been a question of, will he face a suspension in the 2022 season, potentially later when it would be fantasy football playoff time, week 14 to 18 range, or is he going to postpone that and it'll be a 2023 issue? So I think that's a huge one. It's kind of impacting his value. It's hard to gauge. I guess one other one for me too is I think we love to try to find that next guy up. We want to try to get out ahead and be a year too early as opposed to a year too late. I know the fantasy community probably disagrees with me on this, but personally, I think Ezekiel Elliott is going too late in fantasy football drafts. I think people love Tony Pollard and what he brings to the table in Dallas. But at the end of the day, I think Zeke is still that workhorse in Dallas, and I think is a good value for fantasy drafters where he's going right now, kind of in the late 3rd round, early 4th round range.
So, because I'm sitting here, I'm actually in a league and we're doing auto draft right now, and I'm watching all these players come off the board. And I know it depends on points and such and receptions. And is it smarter to grab your quarterback first, or is it smarter to grab a position such as say Deebo Samuel, Dalvin Cook as a running back, maybe a Stephon Diggs or Jamar Chase, some of those high-end guys? Is it smarter to grab the receivers and the running backs, or is it smarter to grab the quarterback first?
Yeah, so unlike real football, any standard settings of a standard league, you definitely do not want to take a quarterback that early. They are down, they're devalued a bit as compared to running backs and wide receivers. So you want to get a couple of those high-end guys, like you mentioned, on your roster first. And then the other key with quarterback as well is, frankly, a running quarterback matters a lot more in fantasy football than they do in real football. Passing yards, you're not going to get as many points. So guys like last year, Jalen Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, when healthy, is a dynamo and was almost a shoo-in as the QB1 if he can play the entire season. So you also want to look for different skill sets and guys at quarterback that bring different things to the table, maybe than your standard pocket passer, unless, of course, they're Tom Brady and they're putting up 5,000 yards and 40-plus touchdowns. Then it doesn't matter that he's a statue in the pocket so much.
So I want to go back to something you talked about with quarterbacks. First of all, my assumption is Deshaun Watson is untouchable, correct?
Yeah, probably. It seems that the suspension is going to go to 12 games, maybe a full season. So if anything, he's a bench stash, I guess, the playoff run, but you don't want to use much draft capital on that.
And then Kyler Murray, with the tumultuous offseason he had, getting the contract, coming back to the Cardinals. I know that their head coach could possibly be on the hot seat if they don't produce this year. Give me your thoughts on Kyler Murray.
Yeah, so, I do think the pressure's on there. Obviously, you just got a nice new contract extension, and a guy last year through the first 10 or so weeks of the season was, at a blistering pace, both in real football, he started 8-0, and in terms of fantasy football because he was running the ball. But after a couple nicks and bruises, had a hip issue, I want to say an ankle issue as well, then he doesn't run. And then his legs become less of an element. And I think that's when their offense really starts to skid, when he's not having that threat as a runner and is just a drop back passer. I think then teams can take a lot of things away from him. So a lot of pressure on them, on him specifically. No DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 weeks because of his PED suspension. They obviously went out and traded for Marquise Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. They have Rondale Moore, their second-round pick from last year, who's a great kind of gadget guy. Quick area, quickness in the short area, getting the ball, let him go to work. But yeah, pressure's on there, and they need to be good throughout the season, not just start hot and then kind of fizzle out as they have the last couple of years.
What about when you talk about gadget guy Deebo Samuel, who sat out, wanted to be traded, and then ultimately got what he wanted, which was the money, but they used him all over the place. He wants to be strictly a wideout. What do you see Deebo Samuel being used as this season?
Yeah, so, I do think now that he's got this big-time new extension, a great deal for him, 3 years, about $23 million per year, I think he's more open to maybe being used in more unique capacities, right? So I think before you get that money, you're saying, look, why would I take running back carries and subject myself to a lot more hits if you're also not going to give me a veteran extension? In that new contract he signed, there actually are incentives tied to rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. So it's not a ton of money, but he actually will earn a little bit more money if he does surpass some of those metrics. But he's a great fantasy player because he gets a ton of catches. Obviously, he's targeted behind the line of scrimmage, and then he goes to work making guys miss in the open field and getting all those yards after the catch. But that's great for fantasy because there's also some leagues where the scoring is tied to how many receptions you get. You get a half point just for the guy catching the ball, and then you add the yards in, and that makes Deebo Samuel a very, very valuable player in fantasy football.
What do you do with a guy like Brady and the guy like Rodgers, who have been staples? You mentioned the numbers that Brady can put up. Rodgers, kind of an unknown because of the loss of Devontae Adams. What do you do with those guys?
Yeah, so he's starting in Tampa Bay. Obviously, they add Russell Gage, the wide receiver 3. They add Julio Jones now. I guess you could say the wide receiver 4, which sounds crazy when you say Julio Jones' name. But, Brady is going to be Brady. Obviously, some concerns and question marks with him missing about 10 days in the middle of the preseason for personal reasons that no one really knows what's going on there. But I do think at the end of the day, you will see a Tom Brady return that is going to put up big numbers and continue to produce. And then with Aaron Rodgers, even though he's the reigning back-to-back MVP, he really hasn't been asked a ton. They haven't really needed him to, throw late in games and win games from late in the fourth quarter. They've been getting early leads. They have a phenomenal rushing attack, obviously, with the 1-2 punch of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And now I think even more so in a weakened NFC and a weakened NFC North, and then that defense adding 2 first-round picks from Georgia and just adding all this talent, retaining a lot of talent from last year. He may win 13 games again, but not really be asked to do a lot throwing the football and just kind of, not game manage, but, get an early lead and then let the rest of the team, take care of it from there.
What do you do with some of the other, that second tier guy? You look at a guy like, say, T. Higgins. You look at a guy like Dalvin Cook, who has been so productive. You obviously still have a guy like Stephon Diggs, but then you look at the tight ends and say like Travis Kelce and company. Those guys, where is their value?
Yeah, I do think at the tight end position, you mentioned Travis Kelce. There's really, in my opinion, 4 or 5 tight ends that if you don't get one of those guys, and so Kelce is, of course, the clear number one option there, then Mark Andrews in Baltimore, especially now with the loss of Marquise Brown, a clear top option, and then Darren Waller with the Raiders, Kyle Pitts with the Atlanta Falcons, and then George Kittle to a degree with the 49ers. His issue is sometimes they just want him to be a blocker. But nevertheless, after those 5 guys, I think the reason there's a ton of value with them is that it kind of falls off a cliff. I mean, there's guys like TJ Hawkinson in Detroit and some other options, Dallas Goedert in Philadelphia, but they're just not guys that produce at the same level. So definitely value there. And then you mentioned some of those other receivers. There's so much receiver depth this year. I do think, of course, if you can get a Jamar Chase, a T. Higgins, some of these dynamic playmaking, game-changing guys that can take over and score, multiple long touchdowns in a game, that goes a long way. But there are so many options at the receiver position. Maybe you can wait a little bit and get some good value on some later round guys at wide receiver.
Now, I by the way, we're talking with Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus. You can get him at PFF_Brad. But you look at guys like, say, like a DK Metcalf. There was a lot of talk about him in the offseason possibly being traded and the deal he was going to get. Then you lose Russell Wilson. He doesn't have the same quarterback throwing to him. So where does his value then begin to fall?
Yeah, it goes down. No question about it. Him and Tyler Lockett are getting drafted later this year than they were last year. Russell Wilson is a deep ball passer. He was a perfect quarterback for DK Metcalf. Metcalf also, I want to say, has scored at least 9 touchdowns in every season of his career so far. That's probably not going to happen again. And touchdowns are a huge part, of course, of fantasy scoring, especially for a guy like him that maybe doesn't get the 8 reception game, but is more of the 4 or 5 receptions, for 80 yards and a touchdown, something like that. So those guys fall, and you're not going to take them as early as you would in years past. It sounds like both Drew Lock and Geno Smith have struggled to consistently connect on the downfield passing in Seattle so far this offseason.
I want to go back and talk a little bit about the Green Bay Packers. And I know you look at a guy like Aaron Jones, but he also splits a lot of time with A.J. Dillon. How valuable is a guy like Aaron Jones? Because he's also a very good receiver out of the backfield, but they've also given a lot more carries and a lot more touches to A.J. Dillon. They kind of go with whoever has the hot hand. How difficult is it to put a guy like that early on in your fantasy draft when he shares time? He's not the main ball carrier.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. Last year, he was extremely undervalued. I would guess probably won a lot of people their leagues. He was going in the 3rd, sometimes 4th round of drafts last year. Like you said, the value in being a pass catcher on top of his running duties goes a long, long way. You get those reception points, and then, of course, he is a nifty guy in the open field. But I do think this year, when that extension was signed by Aaron Jones, the way I look at it from a contract, analysis perspective, it was basically a 2-year deal. I would be very surprised if he plays in 2023 on this contract, unless it is a revised deal or they give him another short-term extension, kind of move the cap hits around. But as of right now, I think this is his last year in Green Bay. And so when you get to the concern there is, okay, let's say it's the second half of the season. Do they want to really feed A.J. Dillon even more, get him more and more acclimated with this offense, get him ready to be maybe that number one workhorse back for them in 2023? He also has the pass catching ability. They say in camp they love throwing in the ball. He's a natural hands catcher. He can make guys miss, and it has the ability to catch and release. So, yeah, there is some risk there, but I think both guys are still very valuable because it's going to be a run-first offense. They should have a lot of early leads. And those guys might get a ton of work through the remaining, second half of a lot of games this year.
So as we sit here, we all look for that next guy. You had mentioned it earlier. Give me some of the dark horses, some of the long shots that you think might be a good value. You talked about Zeke Elliott being a little bit undervalued. Who else might be one of those, 1 or 2 of those players you're looking for to pick up in the draft that maybe people are undervaluing?
Yeah, it is a risk always taking rookies at any position, really. But, they tend not to produce right away. But staying in Green Bay, I think this buzz about Romeo Dubes out of Nevada is real, or Dubs, Dubes, however you pronounce it, Dobbs. But nevertheless, he if you throw on his college tape, coming out, I think he went later than he should have in the draft. He can make guys miss. He can burn on the outside. He's been letting up camp all offseason long, apparently. It sounds like even today, going against a different team in joint practices, he is still kind of making guys miss and wreaking havoc on opposing defenses. So I think he's an interesting late-round flyer. And then a lot of these rookies, Sky Moore in Kansas City, George Pickens in Pittsburgh, they will be productive early in their careers. You can get these younger players later. I'll throw a couple more in there. I think Zamir White, the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders, I think he's going to get a bigger and bigger role as the year goes on. And then Rashad White with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Leonard Fournette obviously came into camp overweight. He is supposed to be their workhorse 3-down back. He was great last year in fantasy. I would still take him, but a good handcuff or a good guy to throw on late in the draft in your roster is Rashad White, their 3rd-round pick. I think he could carve out a nice role as the year goes on as well.
Brad, early season predictions sure to go wrong. Give me one or two that you think coming out of this season, this is what you're really feeling strongly about. There's a majority of Americans that really believe that this is the Buffalo Bills year and they're going to win a Super Bowl. Are you on board with that?
You know, I am. They are my Super Bowl pick. I think you can poke some holes in this roster, but I think pound for pound, it might be one of the better rosters in the NFL. They obviously were super close last year, and I think the biggest weakness they had was generating pressure with that defensive line. So you add Von Miller. He makes everyone else, he's a force multiplier, makes everyone else better on that team. I think they are a fair favorite for the Super Bowl this year, even though the AFC is a gauntlet this year, across the entire conference.
Always good to talk to you, Brad. We appreciate it, and I know we're going to talk a lot throughout the season. Thanks so much as always, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
There you go. He is Brad Spielberger. You can find him over on Pro Football Focus at PFF_Brad. PFF_Brad. He does a lot of stuff with overthecap.com as well at PFF_Brad. He joins us on the hotline and some good advice when it comes to fantasy. By the way, he is back again this year, which I am so proud to say. I talked to him yesterday, our buddy Paul Charchian. When does Charge start with us, Ben? Is he on Thursday, this Thursday?
Yep, Thursday at noon.
Thursdays at noon, our buddy Paul Charchian. And last night, Paul had to walk me through it because for whatever reason it wasn't working. But I got into the Guillotine League. I am in with a lot of other talking heads, we'll say, when it comes to fantasy football and the Guillotine Leagues and all the different shows that he has around the country. So 18 different teams in the league, and I am picking 12th. I am currently 4 picks away. However, this is kind of cool though. When you go to the Guillotine Leagues, as the draft culminates, if let's say you don't have time to sit there through every pick, okay, in this pick, what I've done is you go to the available players that are still on the board. You grab maybe your top 5 or 6, you drag them into your queue, and then hit auto draft. And then as those players come off the board, they're removed from your queue. But if you pick more players than there are picks ahead of you, there will be a player in your queue. So right now, you've got Joe Robinson and Cody Tapp and 4 more guys that are Alex Golden company that are all on the clock, so to speak, prior to me. But as of right now, I have Deebo Samuel, Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce, Aaron Jones, Adam Thielen, Lamar Jackson, and CeeDee Lamb all sitting in my queue. So I can't go wrong right now because one of those guys that I just read off to you is available. So the cool thing is you put it on auto draft and it will automatically pick one of those, and you rank those guys, and as those guys come off the board, they leave your queue. But if they don't come off the board, the top player in your queue then becomes your draft choice, which is kind of cool when you go with auto draft, because you don't have to sit there minute by minute, second by second, and watch the clock count down while somebody else ponders what it is they want to do. So I'm up in 4 picks, and if you go by the hours allotted, as this is a very long quote celebrity selection league draft, I think it goes for like 6 hours per round or something like that, something ridiculous. But I don't have to sit here and watch it every second, which is kind of cool. So we're going to have Paul back on Thursday, starting this Thursday at noon, the Guillotine Leagues. And Paul Charchian and I are going to sit down and talk fantasy football each and every Thursday. Looking forward to that. Also, speaking of that, we have got, I believe we've got some announcements coming up regarding the huddle as well. Maybe some changes to the huddle this year. So stay tuned. But I just got some details on that yesterday, which is kind of cool. Anyway, there you go. James says, by the way, tree stands setting up a day bow hunting. They're setting up the tree stands today and doing some bow hunting, listening to the program and watching, by the way, on the phone in the tree stand on the Bud Light live stream. That's fantastic. For those of us, those of you that did lose us in Wausau, not that you're listening because you're asking me, but let people know in the Wausau area, if you've got the app, that's where you find us. That's the best way. Otherwise, the nearest station is Marshfield. They ended up going all political at that sports station up there, which was crazy stupid, but they feel there's money there, so okay. But regardless, you can also always find us on the app. Go to The Zone, WOZN in Madison. The Zone in Madison, that's the app. Download it on your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, whatever it happens to be, wherever you listen to it, on Alexa, you can find us there. You can always hear it on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and on the podcast for Google Podcasts as well. But the Zone app out of Madison is the best way to catch the program live each and every day. Wanted to let you know that. Let's do this. We're going to step away, take a quick break. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Quick Trip. You better believe it. Going to be using Quick Trip today. Heading up to Wausau immediately after the show, heading up for a cigar dinner tonight. Then after that, streaking over to La Crosse, the home, by the way, of Quick Trip, based in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Going to be doing the show there tomorrow, and then back into the Milwaukee area tomorrow night after I leave Buzzard Billy's. So you better believe I'm going to be using Quick Trip a lot, whether it's the hot sandwiches, the cold stuff, the fruits and salads and such, which I'm kind of on that kick now. But stopping at Quick Trip, I encourage you to use your Quick Rewards card, and you can still win some cash with the Mountain Dew pull tab game. You're good to go with Mountain Dew. You can win a lot of cool cash and prizes. So don't forget, stop into Quick Trip, use your Quick Rewards card. If you don't have one, get one. It does save you stuff. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Mountain Dew Pull Tab Game is your chance to win an adventure-ready Winnebago Revel from Quick Trip. Go off-road and off-grid with a fully equipped Winnebago Revel by playing in your Quick Rewards app. Earn extra plays by purchasing participating Mountain Dew Energy, Bubbler, Muscle Milk, or Evolve beverages with Quick Rewards. Adventure begins where the pavement ends with Quick Trip and Mountain Dew. Download the Quick Rewards app today. No purchase necessary. See quicktrip.com/sweepstakes for details.
Catch all the racing action at Road America. Camping and corporate events available as well. Go to roadamerica.com for all the information. Road America, America's national park of speed.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Bill Michaels Show. Glad you're hanging in there with us. Thanks as always. Hey, I put out the word that just earlier today in the Milwaukee area, I said, hey, look, the Fisher House golf outing is right around the corner. And one of the things that we do every year is, as a lot of places do now, charity events, they do what's called like a booze wagon or whatever, you know. And so we take donations. And one of the things I did today was said, hey, you know, we have a lot of bar sponsors, and a lot of my friends own bars and pubs and restaurants and stuff. And I said, hey, we're looking today for donations to fill up 2 wagons for the golf outing coming up on August 29th. And right away, the first text I got was from Dan Della and the gang over at Social House, who said, how many you need, and come over and get them. We're ready. They're just great people. Dan has done such a great job in building up that business and the expansion of that restaurant and the bar area. And it looks great, but it's just a fantastic place and even better people. And I've always said, support those who support us, because relationships like that, they have to work. Not only are they friends, but they have to work both ways. And it really does. They're great people. And every time I say we need something, Dan is one of the first people to have his hand up and say, come to me, I've got you. So thanks to Dan Della and the staff at Social House on Lisbon Road in Menominee Falls. H-A-U-S, by the way, Social House, H-A-U-S. It's a great place. Don't forget, on Sunday mornings, they do breakfast. And if you buy yourself a mixed drink, it's free pancakes, baby. And there is nothing better in this world than free pancakes. So you go over there early, you load up on the pancakes, and then you're set for the Packers game. Or you come back home after the fact and then sit down and watch the Packers game if you're not going to go to the game itself. So terrific place. And they're coming into their season, and they're wrapping up their golf season. But nevertheless, go in and try it. That is our friends at the Social House on Lisbon Road in Menominee Falls. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Lipe Costa says, cheers from Brazil, watching the program over on YouTube right now. You can follow us and subscribe absolutely free on YouTube, but they are watching us in Brazil. Now, that's not a bad way to go. I don't care who you are. That's good stuff. So thank you so much. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. And by the way, we have over 2,300 subscribers that watch on the daily over on YouTube, which is a great way to catch the program. I know every now and then the sound gets a little funky, but for the most part, good way to catch the program. Good stuff.
Bill, do you know how many stars are on the Brazil flag?
I do not know.
27.
How did you know that?
No, I looked it up. I was trying to find a fun fact, and hopefully one had to do also with Wisconsin, and I couldn't find one.
You're killing me.
So I decided with that. There you go.
You're killing it. Okay.
26 states and a federal district.
All right.
27 stars.
We are getting our daily historic lesson from one Ben Kennedy.
Actually,
Brazil.
I do have one nugget. They have 4 time zones in Brazil, and the Big Ten now has 4 time zones, because I learned a couple weeks ago that part of Nebraska is in the Mountain Time Zone.
You're killing me. You are right, though. Part of Nebraska is in the time zone. Only for the fact, and the only reason I know that is because if you look at North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska, before you get into the Colorado area and company, but you look and there's just a straight line where those were divided. Those states were divided.
It's very weird.
It is very weird, but we're doing some geography. Speaking of geography, the breakdown is as follows. States that believe in which team as far as Super Bowl goes. The Buffalo Bills have 12 states, 12, including New York, Rhode Island, New Jersey and company, all in those areas, Connecticut, that believe that they're going to be winning a championship. Vermont, including North Dakota, South Dakota, Illinois, and Iowa, including the state of Georgia, that all believe the Buffalo Bills are going to win the championship. State number 2, the Rams. Rams have 5 states. They got Oregon, Washington, Nevada. By the way, also they have Hawaii, and the Buffalo Bills also have Alaska too, by the way. And the LA Rams, the majority of people in the state of Michigan, following the Matthew Stafford story, also believe that they are going to win a championship. The Cowboys have 4 states, which obviously they have the ones that are all surrounding. They got Oklahoma, Texas, and company, Arkansas. They've got all that whole area down there. New Mexico. So all of that is theirs. Then the Denver Broncos have the mid portion of the country. New England has 4 states as well. The upper eastern seaboard, for the most part, believe that the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl, followed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Raiders, the Chiefs all have 3 states. Cincinnati Bengals now have 3 states, Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia. And that then is followed by the Eagles, who have 2 states. So Philadelphia Eagles fans have 2 states. How about that? And then after that, you've got Tennessee with a couple of states. The Green Bay Packers, only the state of Wisconsin believes that the Green Bay Packers are going to win a Super Bowl. How about that? Followed by the Colts with only 1 state, and that's Indiana. Minnesota, the Vikings have 1 state, that's Minnesota. The Baltimore Ravens obviously have that, the D.C. area, have all of Maryland, and the Saints have all of Louisiana. That's it. But the Packers only have 1 state that believes in them, and that is the great state of Wisconsin. By the way, Lipe says he's from Rio de Janeiro, and the Packers have a huge fan base down there. So the Packers might have 1 state, but they also have a region. There you go, which is huge. Check that out. So there you have it. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at New Mail Medical, treating guys with ED all over the state of Wisconsin and beyond the borders. Give them a shout. That's New Mail, 414-455-4451. That's 414-455-4451. 98%. They can tell you, they can almost guarantee the fact that they can help you out with ED. The medical experts, Dr. Tim and everybody there, they can help you. But you can't do anything if you don't call. How about if you're feeling sluggish, if you're feeling moody, if you're feeling down, and you just don't have that energy to get out of bed, you're not sleeping well at night, could be low T. If you're over the age of 30, it takes you maybe 10, 15 minutes to get your numbers checked. That's it. Stop in. Make an appointment. You can't do anything if you don't call. Then there's the all-in-one weight loss program. I'm back on the wagon, and I am going to start kind of charting my progress as well as the season is now upon us to start dropping the pounds, because we know the holidays are going to be here. You're going to be eating the cakes, the pies, the cookies, and all that kind of stuff, and you're going to put even more weight on, and it's a vicious cycle, so you got to get out of it. Call our friends over at New Mail Medical, 414-455-4451. Again, 414-455-4451. And as things get underway and I really get back to cranking, I will begin to do some video stuff and get back at it like I did during COVID, and get back at it and start kind of letting you know the progress now that the back has has healed, or not healed, but at least is doing so much better. If you were listening to the first part of the program. So that's our friends at New Mel Medical. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Are you a gold breaker? Play your favorite games at Potawatomi Sunday afternoons now through September, and you could win your share of $1 million in prizes. Break the code, win the $10,000 top jackpot, and everyone playing slots also wins a prize. Anyone can win on any machine again and again. Do you have the golden touch? Gold Breaker, only at Potawatomi. Visit paysbig.com/goldbreaker for more. Must be 21 years old and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Glad to have you on a Tuesday. Welcome back to the program. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to find us? Do it. Do it. Glad to have you. This is from Chris, and Chris says, hey, Unit, when you come to Wausau, are you going to be able to go to the Scotty Bar? You know what? I shouldn't say never. But when I get off the air today, it's pack up the entire studio, throw it in the car, off we go to Wausau. We have the cigar dinner tonight. I might have a little time, depending on what time things get done tonight, to maybe head over and have one at the Scotty Bar. But after that, I got to go across the rest of the state. I got to get to La Crosse. So maybe. Chris, I'd love to. I know I've got friends up there. I've got my buddy Dwayne and Justin and Kevin, and there's so many people that I know up there. I'd love to be able to go. If I can, we will. If I can't, then maybe next time. Maybe the next time we do that. But I would love to. Scotty Bar is a great place. Been there a couple times, as a matter of fact. This one is from Ryan. Ryan says, when you head out to Wausau, are you going to be? Yeah, it's as a matter of fact, it's the supper club at the bottom of Rib Mountain. That's where we're going to be coming up tonight at the Trails End Lodge. And unfortunately, Ryan, no, tickets are sold out. The event gone. Not happening. This is Wisconsin Cheese Curd King. Hits us up over on Twitter. He says, I'm going to call my shot right now. Brew Crew done. Pack it in. Let's look to next year. Get some damn bats and try to recover from this hater craptastic show. And by the way, our poll question over on Twitter, in case you're interested, the poll question has been out there and about now for a little bit of time anyway. But the poll question, 194 votes are cast. You can find it over on Twitter as well. Within the next 3 years, the Brewers are closer to, quote, a World Series appearance or a rebuild. 86.6% of you in an hour, almost 200 votes, have said rebuild. Faith is damn near zero. Only 13.4% of you say a World Series appearance. So as the Wisconsinites and Brewers fans believe, nah, baby, nah. There is no championship in the future. There is no World Series appearance in the future for this team. So that is what has happened when they made the deal to deal away Josh Hader, to show everybody we're not going to spend the money and move on. And again, whether that's true or not, because I've got people arguing, that's fine. If you want to believe what you want to believe, I don't disagree with you. I think the Brewers have kind of showed their hand a little bit. I still, to this moment, do not understand. I mean, I do, but I don't understand the totality of that Hader trade. It just didn't make sense at the time. It still doesn't for what's transpired since then. But as Brian put it, the front office has sent a clear message with the horrible Hader deal that they're not a World Series contender. So rebuild it is. And that is perception throughout. And all you got to do is go over to the Facebook fan page where I posted the question earlier. The question for you is, what do you believe is to be more true? The Brewers are closer to a World Series or a rebuild. And perception has become reality in many people's minds. And that can be unbelievably detrimental, whether it's true or not. That's what the belief is. So not only do the Brewers have to win on the field, but now they have to win off the field to tell their fans, yes, we are still in it to win it. Because right now, people just flat out don't believe you. Jeff says, outside looking in, the Brewers were not a real World Series competitor this year anyway. Nobody wanted to hear it, which made the trade deadline moves even more frustrating. Leading the weak Central at the time is not the same as looking at your roster and thinking you could win a playoff series. I think it's more likely they made the moves hoping to be in a better spot to make a run over the next 2 years, and they just simply gave up on this one. And that is probably the most based in reality statement you can make. Now, and Jeff, I don't know what you're a fan of, but that's probably the most based in reality statement you can make. Was they looked at it and said, yeah, look at what the Dodgers are doing, the Mets are doing, the Yankees are doing, the Astros are doing. We're not in that league. Then again, injuries can be the great equalizer. So if you do get, say, to mid-August, and if the Brewers were up 4 or 5 or 7 games or whatever it was right now, and they had the division pretty much wrapped up, and all of a sudden the Dodgers sustain a couple of injuries in the pitching staff, and same with the Mets, well, you're right there. But basically by this trade and taking the wind out of the sails of the guys in that clubhouse, you've said, no, we're just going to go ahead and start taking our foot off the gas, and we're just going to kind of coast. Now, here's the next question regarding that. And this is from Kevin. He says, if you are in the midst of a rebuild or you're starting to look towards next year, do you then look past Craig Counsell? I think he's done a great job, but others seem to think that they'd be better off with a fresh start. What are your thoughts? I think and I've been a staunch supporter of Craig Counsell. You can talk about certain moves and such, but he makes moves analytically and statistically in conjunction with the general manager. I believe he has done probably a greater job with less talent than he's been given credit for. I think he's been able to manipulate the numbers and the statistics. I think that they have been able to do more with less. And for whatever reason, why you would want to get rid of Craig Counsell, other than maybe a personality conflict, you don't like his answers in a press conference, whatever, you can't find a more I want to win for Milwaukee and Wisconsin passionate manager than Craig Counsell. You just can't. Why would you want to throw him to the wayside? Just because? I can see if guys aren't listening to him. I can see if he's lost his passion for managing. I can see this year, that was a kick to the gut to get rid of Josh Hader. But I cannot fathom for the life of me why you would want to get rid of Craig Counsell. I don't understand that. Ryan says, I thought Mark Attanasio, Brewers owner, didn't like using the term rebuild. We, quote, retool. And this is why we're going to continue to see the Brewers make puzzling trades like Josh Hader. When you have a player coming close to the end of, quote, team control, and you're not going to re-sign him, they'll trade anyone and everyone, even during a playoff run. If they feel that they can get value back and to replace that player now for the playoffs or an asset for the future, that's what they're going to do. I do wonder, though, when they'll value pitching. They actually need to start paying large dollars for homegrown pitchers and using that on a hitter as well. I don't think we've gotten fair value back after the Yelich extension. I don't know of many who thought that he'd have this kind of fall off. That is until he started having back issues and his hitting is generated from his back and his hips. The agreed upon statement is be competitive every season, fighting for the playoffs, but never going all in. That's from Ryan. Again, perception becomes reality. There you go. It just continues on. Let's do this. Going to go ahead and take a quick break, come back. Got a lot more to get to. I want to talk more about this, obviously more about the Green Bay Packers. Packers in a joint practice session today with the New Orleans Saints. We may even hear from Green Bay and Mike Clemens before it's all said and done if he decides to check in. I'm not quite sure if he will or not, but it could possibly happen. We will wait and see. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. 10 years locked in, 2.99%. Not many deals like that out there right now with the way the economy's gone. But that's right. You heard me. 10 years, 2.99% right now. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And it's probably more so for homeowners that want to do a whole house. Or if you're, say, building a home, you want to do your whole home in Pella Windows and Doors. That's a great deal. If you want just one window, get one window. They have deals and specials going on right now. Slider window, roll screen on the inside, blinds on the inside, outside, different hardwares, different finishes, different colors, whether it's Impervia or wood or fiberglass, whatever it happens to be, vinyl windows, they carry a brand for everybody. But if you want to do the house, you want to raise the value of the house, you want to make your home more economical and do it over a period of time, 2.99% over 10 years, and you can't do a damn thing if you don't get a hold of them. Go to Pella, P-E-L-L-A, PellaWI.com. That's a great deal. PellaWI.com or call them 855-PELLA-WI. That's 855-PELLA-WI. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
I give that a 2.99.
Okay. Hey, Dad.
What's wrong?
That woman over there. Don't look.
What did she do?
She judged my dive. Gave it a 2.99. Isn't that weird?
Hey, that's Gina Della from Pella. I'm going to find out what this is all about. Excuse me. Why are you judging my daughter's diving? I know who you are.
I'm sorry? Judging?
Yeah, she said you yelled out.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about her. I was finalizing this month's special at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. That's funny.
What's special?
Pay only 2.99% interest for 10 years.
On new Pella windows. Really? 10 years?
Yep.
But it's the middle of summer. You can't get a deal on installing new windows during the warmest season.
You can at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Oh, 2.99.
Dad?
Oh, not you, sweetheart. The deal at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. 2.99% for 10 years.
Visit PellaWI.com.
Approved credit.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, a training camp update. In Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers making changes on the offensive line. They're considering Elton Jenkins at right tackle. That's a good sign that they think that David Bakhtiari will be back at some point at left tackle. Tight end Robert Tonyan is back at practice, slowly getting ready for some contact after recovering from a torn ACL.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely need to get hit for sure. I think that'll come with time as I progress into more football stuff and team stuff. But, yeah, definitely would like to get hit a couple times, that's for sure.
Is there anyone on this defense you don't want to be the first one to hit you?
Probably Rashawn Gary. He's the only person I wouldn't let hit me. Everyone else I'll let hit me.
The Packers added another tight end, Nate Becker, 6'5", 264 pounds. He's been with the Lions, the Bills, and the Panthers. The Saints are here for 2 days of joint practices. Before leaving New Orleans, the Saints' new head coach, Dennis Allen, was asked on why he accepted the Packers' invitation to spend the week here before Friday night's game at Lambeau.
There's a couple factors that went into that. You know, going up to Green Bay, Wisconsin and getting out of this heat down here is a big factor. You know, and then obviously getting an opportunity to work against, you know, a Super Bowl contending team, work against, you know, a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, so there's a lot of things about that were intriguing to us. And so we're excited about, you know, getting up there and going to work against those guys.
Now, the Packers have hosted the Texans and the Jets in joint practices since Matt LaFleur took over in Green Bay.
You know, we've done this the last couple of years, so you kind of have like a format. We tweak it every time, and certainly if there's things that, you know, Dennis wants, then we accommodate, and vice versa. So no, it should be good work, you know, the next 2 days.
That's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. In Green Bay, I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
Right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers took the field this morning in the first of two joint practices with the Saints at training camp. In recent years, brawls have broken out around the league at these joint practices. So Packers coach Matt LaFleur and New Orleans coach Dennis Allen agreed not to do any one-on-one drills during either practice.
These guys are competitors, man, and that's what we love about them. But sometimes, that's where tempers start to flare and you see it carry over. So just thought it was best to operate the way we are, where we go right to team. And, I think we're on the same page.
The two teams will be back in the field tomorrow and then face each other Friday night in preseason action at Lambeau Field. During the Badgers, they will be practicing tonight inside Camp Randall Stadium. Yesterday, they learned that they would start the season at number 18 in the AP Top 25. It's a sixth straight season. They're ranked to start the year. Meanwhile, star running back Braylon Allen held out of practice yesterday. UW said he's nicked up, and they're just being cautious with him. Wisconsin will open the season 2 weeks from Saturday against Illinois State.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, the Brewers got shut out 4-0 by the Dodgers last night. They have now lost 9 of the last 13 games, dropped them 2 games back of St. Louis for first place in the NL Central. They're going to face L.A. again tonight at American Family Field. First pitch there is set for 7:10. And the Wisconsin basketball team finished its French tour 4-0 after a win in Nice yesterday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Glad to have you back. Final hour of the Bill Michaels Show. Packers in a joint practice today up in Green Bay. Badgers come out yesterday at number 18 in the country. Talking about it all, covering both the Badgers. And today up in Green Bay as the locker rooms are getting ready to open up here shortly. Our buddy Zach Heilprin, sports director for WOZN out in Madison, joining us on the hotline. So let's start in Green Bay first, Zach, and the fact that the Packers had the joint practice today. I saw earlier the defensive front for the Packers was playing really well against the offensive front of the Saints. Jordan Love threw a pick today. What else was exciting news in Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, it was heavy defensive advantage today, Bill. I mean, and Matt LaFleur said it was going to be, the way that they had this structured, it was going to be favoring the defense. And yeah, Packers defense is all over the quarterbacks in the backfield, both Andy Dalton and Ian Book. No Jameis Winston today for New Orleans. But, the Packers DBs, Rasul Douglas got his hands on a couple balls. I mean, it's fun. I love these type of practices. It's fine. Second team offense versus first team defense is fine for much training camp, but when you get the good on good from both two different teams, and especially when it's some high level players like Rasul Douglas and Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes and Adrian Amos going against Michael Thomas and Chris Olave and Jarvis Landry, it's a really fun couple periods.
So Dominic Daphne, one of the more notable names, cut loose today. Packers get under the number that they needed to be at this afternoon. So there's no shock there that Daphne was gone. We knew he was on the bubble to begin with. The only way he would still be around is if Robert Tonyan wasn't going to be able to go anyway, right?
Yeah, I think the activation of Robert Tonyan kind of spelled the end for Dominic Daphne. I mean, he's dealt with injuries. Like he just recently came back. He missed a bunch of time, and when you've got pretty healthy competition at that spot, up and down. You think Robert Tonyan's going to be your one at some point, but past that, there's a lot of unknown there, and Dominic Daphne just wasn't able to stay on the field. So, yeah, I don't think anybody was caught off guard by that.
So what else with these practices, I think, are the Packers trying to get out of it? I think they value these practices almost as much, if not more, than what they do, say, a preseason game, because you can get more work in, you can get more looks. All the talk is about Jordan Love. I know he threw the pick today, but, again, we hear about the footwork and how great he looks, and he's got command and confidence, and yet in the game, he didn't have the best of footwork, and he did throw the one errant football. Otherwise, the other two picks weren't really his fault, but he didn't look great. So give me your thoughts there. Let's start there.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of people that didn't think he looked very good. I kind of was going into that game thinking, what does he look like, confidence-wise? What does he look like in the huddle? What does he do? Can he lead some scoring drives? And he did that. And again, playing with so many backups like he was, it's not, just a straight evaluation. You have to at least factor some other things in. So I thought he looked fine today. It was really, really tough. So they were at opposite ends here, Bill. Like the offense was on one end of the field, defense was on the other end of the field. I was kind of focused on defense today. But, looking at Jordan Love, he did throw a touchdown as well. There were some, nice plays towards the end of practice for him. I think practices like today are fine. I think maybe we get some more information about him with Friday's game against the Saints. But you mentioned in what do you gain from these type of practices? I think to be able to get the exact type of look that you're looking for your offense to face. Like you can script this so that the opposite defense knows, is going to give you the look that you're looking for in that situation, allows you to practice it. I think that's the greatest benefit of these practices. And, for Jordan Love, that's important too.
I know they've been moving guys around on the offensive line, Elton Jenkins being back. They have everything just about set. Give me your thoughts on, I know Mike Clemens' report said that they might be eyeballing Bakhtiari for a comeback. Do you see that happening?
It feels close for him. Now, it kind of has felt like close for him for the past year. I think that's kind of what people have been hoping, that it was going to be close. We'll see. I will say today, a lot of Zach Tom at right tackle. And obviously Rice Newman got that opportunity to start against San Francisco, and I don't think that is situated. And where does Elton Jenkins end up? Is Elton Jenkins your right tackle? No one here is willing to say. I don't think Elton Jenkins really knows where that's going to be. He's getting work at tackle. He's going to work at guard. I think it just kind of depends on what your preference is, though. I kind of think Elton Jenkins, based on the rest of your line, based on what you don't really have it at right tackle at this point, would be the best option at right tackle. If Bakhtiari is back, then maybe Yash Nyman can play right tackle, and then you move Elton Jenkins inside, and you have Bakhtiari at left tackle. Getting Bakhtiari back gives you so many options because you can move Jenkins pretty much wherever you want him. At this point, he kind of has to, I think, kind of has to be a tackle, but they have a lot. I guess they have a few weeks here to decide. First game isn't for another 3 weeks, so they still have some time here to figure it all out and get Bakhtiari back. And do you think he needs game action to be able to put him out there against Minnesota? I guess I don't. We saw that last year. He looked fine against Detroit, outside of obviously the injury. So I think everyone is hopeful that that's close for David Bakhtiari, but until he's actually out there, it's kind of like I have to see it to believe it type of thing.
So we're talking with Zach Halpern, by the way, WOZN Madison, covering the Badgers and the Packers. So let's talk real quick about the defense. Starting defense on paper looks just completely awesome. We all know that. Give me your concerns defensively speaking. I think it's the outside linebacking position, the depth position, even at safety. Those are some of the areas that have more concerns, correct?
I think it's a huge, the biggest question. I was talking to some guys out there today. When Rashawn Gary got a little nicked up today, he was with the trainers for a little bit, and you just look at what's after that, that's a huge concern. I mean, it's Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, and then it's a bunch of guys that don't have a ton of experience. I mean, they have some rookies there. We've talked about this. I think me and Ben talked about this, when you were gone last week. Maybe the new guy, maybe the third guy isn't on your team right now. Maybe it's a guy that's going to get cut from somewhere else and you're able to add him. I don't know who that would be, but I at least think that's a potential for this group. The biggest thing was, I don't know if they were expecting it or not, but Whitney Merciless decided to retire after last year. I think how good would he look right now as your third guy?
Right.
It'd be really, really nice. They don't have that. So I think potentially looking, you may have to add from somewhere else, or maybe someone pops up here in the preseason and shows you that they are ready to play. But I don't think we've seen that to this point yet.
How confident are you in the secondary?
Really, really confident when it comes to the starters. I feel like it's not nearly on the same level as the outside linebacker group because you have three, I think, very, very good corners, and you have two safeties that you really, really like in Amos and Savage. And then, there's a battle for that third safety job and maybe the battle for the fourth and fifth corner jobs. But the starting secondary, I think, can play with anybody in the league. And we saw that today. I mean, they covered up what I think is a pretty good receiving core with Landry and, Michael Thomas and Chris Olave. It's a really good group. Now, it was Andy Dalton throwing them passes, so it's not necessarily exactly facing Tom Brady or anybody or any of the elite quarterbacks, but I like that group a lot. I do. I think it's as good a secondary as they've had in a really, really long time.
Always good to talk. I know you got to get in there, Zach, because they're going to have an open locker room. Go hang out, and then we'll talk again soon, okay?
All right, sounds good, Bill. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. There you go. That's Zach Heilprin joining us on the hotline and chatting with us just a little bit about what he sees out of this team. Good stuff. Big time. Got a couple of different emails here. This one's from Jason. Jason says, hey, Bill, do you think the outside linebacking core is too thin? Did Goody do it in injustice? No. Here's the thing with where they're thin, okay? And I think this is something we definitely have to think about. First and foremost, there was only so much money to go around. That's it. There's only so much money to go around. They didn't have a ton of money. So they couldn't go out and buy all this incredible depth. I don't think they're done bringing people into the organization, to be quite honest with you. I just don't think so. But they didn't have a ton of depth. So that being said, you didn't have like $30 million to go out and buy additional players to add it. You're just hoping that you can find a couple of pieces, a couple of guys that are serviceable. And like many teams throughout the National Football League, you're also hoping, beyond hope, that guys don't get hurt. Because if you don't have injuries, then pretty much all of your guys are going to be okay, and you can rotate guys in. You can give guys a little bit of a breather, but for the most part, you're going to be okay. That's what they're hoping for. I mean, like everything, you're hoping that, you stay healthy or at least you get healthy back again at the right time and stay there. But I think that's what they're all hoping for, is that they just remain healthy. They don't have to go to their depth very often, and they find one or two guys who can fill the bill. And then you cross your fingers, knock on wood, that you don't have mass injuries across, say, the outside linebacking core. You don't have 3 or 4 guys that go down, because then you're stuck. Then you really got to begin to mix and match and start to try to figure things out and be creative, and then God forbid you lose a couple of outside linebackers and a safety or two. Holy crap. Then yeah, you're really, really, really thin, without a doubt. So that's kind of what you're hoping for. Ronald says, you're crazy if you don't think Bakhtiari doesn't need some type of reps or practice before the season starts. He is too fragile right now. That's from Ronald. Ronald, over on the Bud Light live stream. Ronald, I agree. I think does he need 3 preseason games? No. Does he need quite a bit of practice and then at least a preseason game? In my opinion, yes. The problem is, when is he going to be ready? That's it. When is he going to be ready? If he's not going to be ready anytime soon, then what are you doing? Then what are you doing? Because I agree with you. I think he's going to need quite a few reps just to kind of get his footwork back. As much as you want to talk about his strength, you need your footwork. That's not even getting into the leverage aspect of things, trying to fend off an outside pass like a Bosa, trying to put a Bosa on you and trying to not only have the speed and the agility, but then the strength and the power to be able to move a guy like Bosa. I mean, it's some of it's just going to be, you're going to have to go kind of relearn it all over again. And I think we know that too. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Jason says, sure does look good to see Taysom Hill come out of a Green Bay locker room. I hated it when they got rid of him. Taysom Hill. What is Taysom Hill, Ben?
A exceptional all-world special teamer.
He's a gadget guy. I mean, I get it. I made kind of a joke earlier about maybe being as good as Jordan Love, and that was more of a slap at Jordan Love than it was Taysom Hill. But he's even when he had the chance to be a starting quarterback, he was good. He was serviceable. He wasn't great, right? People act like they got rid of Joe Montana. That Brett Favre slipped through their fingers, that he went on to be the Atlanta Falcons version, going to the New Orleans Saints from the Green Bay Packers version of Brett Favre. No. I mean, it's good that he's made a career. He's found a niche, and he was used in a way that set him up the best for success, but he was not going to be that here in Green Bay. And I don't know why I'm glad there's a love affair. Obviously, being a guy that, was drafted and thought a long shot at best to ever make an NFL roster, he's found the niche. But I don't get the, oh my God, I can't believe they let him go portion of the story. He's been a good. Now, could Mike McCarthy have used him in say, gadget situation? Sure, he could have. They didn't want to use him that way. But it's not like they let go of a guy that, is the next Hall of Famer. So that's not it. 877-867-1670. If you are looking for Italian food on the west side of Milwaukee in the Waukesha area, Albanese's Roadhouse. They had some bocce ball going on last night. Got it going on again tonight and throughout the week. Stop in and tell Joey we said hi with the meatball hoagie, which is awesome, or lasagna and many of the different dishes they have. Plus, it's just good people. Really good people. Albanese's Roadhouse. You can stop next door to Dominic's and go into the sports bar aspect of things, play a few games, shoot a little pool, have a beverage. But either way, good stuff. Bocce ball on the outside, game room on the inside, great food in the restaurant. That's the trifecta. That is Albanese's Roadhouse right there on Blue Mountain Road next to Menards. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
One of the worst things that you can hear, you have cancer. The worst is when you hear the words, your child has cancer. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, it changes their world. Sometimes they can't even do things that they really love, like playing soccer, riding a bike, going to prom, attending school. Children with cancer spend a lot of time away from others, time in the hospital, treatments, tired, nauseous, and they feel isolated. That's where Special Spaces Wisconsin steps in. They provide these children with a special space where they can not only sleep, but they can play, they can heal, they can spend time away from the challenges of their illness. It's a customized bedroom designed just for them. How about a princess castle or a pirate ship or a sports-themed bedroom? They transform that child's existing bedroom into a place that only he or she can imagine. A place for them just to be a kid. This effort is done with teams of dedicated volunteers and sponsors, just like our friends from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and all the community partners. If you'd like to find out more or to donate, go to specialspaces.org. That is specialspaces.org.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Good to have you today. A lot to get to. Still left in the program. We were talking a lot about the Brewers today, and they got the Dodgers coming up again tonight, trying to get themselves a win. They have not been playing winning baseball as of late, and whether or not you feel that this team is closer to a rebuild than it is a World Series, or vice versa. And the majority of people answering the question today, 209 votes in over on Twitter, by the way, 87.1% of you say rebuild, over 200 votes in just an hour and a half. So a lot of people chiming in on that. Also over on the Facebook fan page, kind of the same thing today, where you've got a lot of answers coming in as we posted that as well. And then talking about the Green Bay Packers, Corey says over on the Bud Light live stream, or Kerry, I should say, at some point, the Pack has to pull the trigger on Bakhtiari and either give him the green light. I think he wants to get the process started. That's with practice. What's your point or your view? It would also give Goody the idea of what he needs as far as another vet for insurance, or no. I'm good with that. First of all, you need to get the green light from the doctor. If the doctor feels like all is well, then absolutely, you go with it. It's because. So if you feel like, the swelling's gone down enough and you've got enough stability in the knee and everything you've done to this point is good, then you go with it. No doubt. I think what right now they're trying to do is make sure that if he does go, he's not going to hurt it any further, which is, obviously they have his health. The one thing the Green Bay Packers do, as well as, if not better than most teams, is they have an extreme view on health and welfare of the player. That is paramount. The health and welfare of the player. So they don't take risks. They just don't. If he's not ready to go, then, Doc McKenzie's not going to clear him. If he doesn't get cleared, he can't go out. It's as simple as that. But I agree with you. I think it's, with all the time that has passed, you're talking if almost from New Year's Eve in 4 months, it'll be 2 years from the injury. Think about that. So at some point you figure they're gonna get it on. It's gonna go. Going back to Brewers, Mark D says, if Mark A, meaning Atanasio, sees a drop in attendance this year, does he do something about it? I can't remember the last time they weren't in the top 10 in attendance. They've been there almost every year. I guess the number one thing to remember, and I think Mark Atanasio has been really good at this, whatever you base, any business person will tell you, your business model is based upon your product. It has to be. Because if you base your product and your productivity off of your business, of what you can and can't afford, you're never going to have success. It's always going to either be status quo, or you're going to continue to regress every year until finally you fold up shop. That's just the way it is. In baseball, football, basketball, whatever, your business plan has to be based off of your product. Now, there are some years where you look at your product and go, it's going to be a down year. So we base our business model off of that product. That you understand. But for the most part, if you want to make money in those businesses, you got to spend it to make it. Unless, of course, you're what the Cubs did years ago, where they said to their fans, hey, we're tearing it down. They were willing to accept 105, 110 losses for a couple of years because they knew when they got those draft choices, they were really good about what was coming through the pipeline. They watched, cultivated that talent, and that all began to rise to the top at the same period of time. The Kyle Schwarbers of the world and everything else began to, kind of come to fruition, and we saw it happen. Okay. Then you get lucky. They're a large market team. The Brewers are not. So unless the Brewers say, hey, we're tearing it down, they're going to continue to tread water. So at one point or another, if you're going to see a drop in attendance, what do? Do you go out and spend money to re-energize your fan base and make a true splash? Or do you say, okay, we're going to base our business off of the fans' response to us, and we're going to continue to drop payroll, save money, try to recuperate what we've lost? Then you get into a vicious cycle where you're constantly cutting. The fans know it. They don't come. They don't show up. They don't spend money. You're raising prices to accommodate. It becomes ugly. You're either in it to win it or you're not. Now, there are times when you wave the white flag and you say, you know what, we're not going to win this. Let's pull back, let's regroup, and let's get back at it again next year. But what you don't want to do is to look at your fans and go, we've been treading water now for so many years, and oh, by the way, we're now going to tear it all back down again, go back below ground zero, and then try to come back in another 3 to 4 years. I don't know how many times you can dip into the well with the fan base and do that. So do I think Mark Attanasio changes his ways? No, I think he probably looks at David Stearns and says, what do we need to do to get better? And what do we need to do to get better within reason? The two terms, the two words you hate that are associated with the Milwaukee Brewers. Two words: small market. You hate it because there's only so much money to be had. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. I completely agree. This is from Magoo, says, bring this kid up. Remember, Robin Yount was only 18 when he came up to the big league club, and that worked out pretty well. Talking about Jackson Cheerio. He keeps on mashing. He's got a 365 on base percentage, 514 slugging, 878 OPS, 4 home runs, 4 doubles in a short period of time. There's no way. The one thing you don't want to do, unless he is an absolute phenom, the one thing you don't want to do is bring him up, ruin his confidence. I mean, look at Keston Hiura has better numbers in the minors, and he's not been able to catch on consistently. I get it. You need bats right now, so you're kind of tempted to dip down into that minor league system and say, okay, let's do this. But you don't want to start that clock ticking on major league service either. Not just yet. And let's be honest. I understand the temptation, but let's be honest. Do you think that he and he alone is going to be the answer to this Brewers, offensive woes? Because I don't think that's the only thing that's sitting out there right now. 877-867-1670. Hit us up. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends Joe and Ellen and the gang at Sloppy Joe's and Smoke on the Water. A lot of good stuff coming up. A lot of good events coming up. As a matter of fact, the day before our motorcycle ride, that weekend on that Saturday, September 3rd, they've got an event out at their place. They've got bands. They've got a lot of good stuff happening. They got a motorcycle ride coming up as well. But they do a lot out there at Smoke on the Water on Okauchee. And they do a ride coming up later in the fall that benefits Fisher House, Wisconsin. And he's always been very generous as far as making Fisher House the benefactor. So make sure you go to Sloppy Joe's. Make sure you check out Smoke on the Water, not only for great food and good people and great service, but also for some of the stuff they do in the community and a lot of fun events. And if you're looking to host a party or event, now that they have that great big room downstairs at Smoke on the Water, that's another thing to think about. Is if you're looking for a great place to host right there on the water, open up the garage doors, the boats and such, and the lake is right there in front of you. That's Smoke on the Water. out there on Okauchee Lake on Wisconsin Avenue. Stop in and say hi, but enjoy yourself out there. Let's do this. We're going to step away, take a quick break. Stay tuned. Still have a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin isn't snobby, snooty, or pretentious. It's Midwestern charm at its finest. And that's exactly what Forgotten Fire Winery in Peshtigo is all about. Fun in a bottle without the attitude. You can find their full wine and cider lineup in their tasting room or in liquor and grocery stores throughout the state. The winery is a great place to get away for wine and cider tastings, great live music, and private events all year long. Remember, any time is a great time for Forgotten Fire wines and ciders. Wisconsin wine made from Wisconsin people.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I know Giannis made the statement that, maybe someday I could play for Chicago, but it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. At least not in the next 4 or 5 years. Not going to happen. So it was one of those things that I wanted to bring up because I didn't want to ignore it, but I also didn't want to bring it up and go on and on about it because I just don't think there's much credence to it. Some do. Some seem to think that, after last season, he's not having. Why? I think they can come back this year and be just as formidable. Injuries played a part in it. I think the season might have turned out different had Chris Middleton been there. I don't know how much different. I don't know if they make it to an Eastern Conference Finals or not, but I think they at least win the series where they get bounced. It just, they looked disorganized. They looked like they were just searching. And they did the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and it just never happened. So I'm not concerned about it, to be quite honest with you. I think Giannis is going to come back. And now, to be perfectly honest here, now because remember, the year prior, they played that weird season because of COVID. The postseason was extended, and they only had like 2 months off, 2.5 months off before they're back at training camp, and they're back into another full season. Now they've had a full off season, rest, recuperate, get ready. They don't even come back for a couple of months. So no, it's not going to happen. I'm going to be good. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to hit us up, feel free to do it, but this is kind of a non-speaking topic, to be honest. There you go. What else do we have here for you? There's a lot of different weird stuff going on. This is from Mark. He said, weird news today. The woman was eaten by an alligator. What? Mark, weird news? That's not, first of all, that's depressing if that's true. That's sad. That's not weird news. That's sad, man. You brought everybody down with a woman getting eaten by an alligator. Dude, that's wrong on a lot of levels. I don't care who you are. This is from Baker. Baker says, hey, unit, I saw your headline today. Who is the best player for the Green Bay Packers? When we talked about that, and I put that up there specifically because we were talking about fantasy, who is it? Aaron Rodgers? Who is the best? If you're going to be a fantasy player this year, who is the best player coming off of the Green Bay Packers? Because the expectation is Aaron Rodgers, if you look at some of the numbers that are projected, might be under 4,000 yards this year. He's always thrown for more than 30 touchdowns and very minimal when it comes to interceptions. So he can score in that sense. But also, if you're going to find quarterbacks, Kyler Murray is going to be one of those guys. Could Dak Prescott, although he's not much of a runner, Lamar Jackson certainly is, right? He's a guy that can run, get out on the edge. Who would be the most likely candidate to be the best player available via free or via fantasy? And that's what we were talking about. We weren't really talking specifically about Aaron Rodgers as not being the most valuable. Because by far he is. But yeah, when you start to look at it, the most valuable player, is it Aaron Jones coming off of the Green Bay Packers? And we go back to our, you got Josh Allen. He can get out and run. When we talked earlier with our guy from Pro Football, Spielberg from our Pro Football Focus, when we were talking quarterbacks in the National Football League, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, two quarterbacks highly rated. Justin Herbert is another guy that's highly rated at the quarterback position. I mentioned Lamar Jackson. There's Joe Burrow, although I don't think Joe Burrow is going to get outside and do a whole lot of running. Kyler Murray, I discussed him. Then you get into what? Russell Wilson? Dak Prescott? They're not going to get out and run. We know Brady's a scoring machine, But if you look at a lot of the ranking system, he's down there on the list. Matthew Stafford, no. Jalen Hurts coming out of Philadelphia. Now, Ben, is Jalen Hurts a machine that you would take? Would you grab him for fantasy numbers?
Yeah, I guess he'll be good. It's so hard because my main thought is whether he can, pass the ball enough to win in the playoffs. But in terms of that, yes, I think he will do quite well.
Because Aaron Rodgers on many draft boards, especially with the uncertainty of the wide receiver position, is ranked lower than many of the names I just gave you, including Jalen Hurts. So, when you talk about the value, there's other players on the Packers roster that are more valuable. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, both being on that list. Albeit Dubs is not climbing very fast. I think a lot of people are still under the wait and see premise, but he might be one of those sleeper guys you go out and grab. There's even some talk about Sammy Watkins possibly being on the bubble. Mike Clemens addressed that the other day, and he said, I don't see that happening, but but you don't have Sammy Watkins high on many draft boards when it comes to fantasy. But Aaron Rodgers still, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think there's a premise, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think the premise is that without Devontae Adams, it's not going to move. And I think it's going to be just the opposite. I think it may not be big time passes of 20 yards or more, 30 yards or more downfield and touchdowns, but I think you're going to see a lot of play action, a lot of movement, crossing patterns, things where they're going to scheme guys open. Rodgers is going to put it into a tight window. Guys are going to have to make catches, and they're going to move the football that way. And I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of drop-off. And I also think that Rodgers is going to have to learn, and this is probably going to be over a period of time, but he's going to have to learn to trust the guys and to give them the ability to get yards after the catch, because that's the way the ball is going to move for this Green Bay Packers offense. Stay tuned. We're going to wrap things up. Stay sticking around next on the Bill Michaels Show.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Catch all the racing action at Road America. Camping and corporate events available as well. Go to roadamerica.com for all the information. Road America, America's national park of speed.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Training camp update. In Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers making some roster moves to get down to 85 players by today, including releasing backup center Cole Schneider out of Central Florida, and they released linebacker Randy Ramsey, who suffered a severe ankle injury last year in training camp and has struggled so far this year. They got some players back on the field during yesterday's jog-through. Robert Tonyan, rookie receiver Christian Watson, and Elton Jenkins coming back from a torn ACL, taking half-speed reps at right tackle. Head coach Matt LaFleur.
Well, it was definitely a shot in the arm for our team. I think just even though it was, just the jog through portion and individual, I thought they looked good. So we'll see. Hopefully they can, again, continue to get a little bit better and stronger and healthier and more confident each and every day.
Now, LaFleur says he wants to make it clear he wants no fighting during joint practices today and tomorrow with the Saints. I talked to Packers center Josh Myers.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be something that's discussed in our team meeting, but as far as like amongst peers, like around the facility, it just doesn't really come up much,
But there is extra juice in those joint practices.
Definitely. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that's another NFL team in Green Bay. So, yeah, definitely.
The Saints have wide receiver Michael Thomas back from last year's ankle surgery, and they signed veteran safety Tyrann Mathieu in May. Quarterback Jameis Winston dealing with a foot injury he suffered last week. So that means Andy Dalton, who's been with the Bengals, the Cowboys, and the Bears, will now be under center for New Orleans. What does he think of joint practices?
I've done it a couple times in my career. It's good work. I think it gets a time in camp where you've been seeing the same guys over and over, same defenses, same group, and it's good to go compete against another team and kind of see where you're at. And so it'll be fun to go up there to Green Bay.
That's Saints backup quarterback Andy Dalton in Green Bay. I'm Mike Clemens on the Bill Michaels Show.
How we looking? Final segment of the Bill Michaels Show before we get out of here. Good stuff from Mike Clemens. Back at it again tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are going to be in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We're going to be at Cedar Creek Golf Course. Tonight, going to be up in Wausau. Heading up there right after I get off the air. Going to be getting out of here and heading on up. Looking forward to that this evening. Brewers tonight. Taking on the Dodgers, game 2 of this 4-game series. And tonight, Brandon Woodruff goes to the hill 9-3 with that 3.52 ERA. Hoping to at least put a win in the column for the Brewers. And hopefully the Brewers can get off the schneid and get a few base knocks tonight and get themselves right offensively and to get a win and keep pace. 2 games right now behind the Cardinals. Speaking of the Cardinals are at home in St. Louis, taking on the Rockies later on this evening. Cubs on the road, taking on the Nationals. Pittsburgh in interleague play, hosting the Red Sox, and the Philadelphia Phillies are on the road in the Queen City, taking on the Cincinnati Reds. So that's the way things round out in the National League Central. Now, the teams that the Brewers are chasing, the Padres are on the road, taking on the Marlins. So you're not, by any guesstimation, going to receive a lot of hope or help there. In the meantime, the Mets and the Braves in a National League East battle, they match up tonight. That's taking place in Atlanta. So, again, you're not going to get much help in any way, shape, or form in that realm. But nevertheless, Brewers trying to get some wins, and you're only a couple of games back in that column for the wild card spot as well. In the meantime, the Packers have wrapped up their practice, and they are going to be back at it again tomorrow. We'll hear tomorrow from, again, Mike Clemens is probably going to join us. Who else we got coming on the show tomorrow, Ben?
Well, Aaron Rodgers just spoke to the media
at
length, so we'll have one of those. And figuring out the rest of tomorrow, have a loaded rest of the week, though. Pete Doherty, because joint practice is, a busy time up north at least.
Right.
So,
because you're not only covering You're not only covering the Packers, but now you're covering two different teams. So that's the other side of the coin that you have to kind of deal with when you're up there, because you've got to cover both sides. So Mike Clemens doing yeoman's work, Zach Heilbrunn doing yeoman's work up there. So we'll be getting into that as well. And then don't forget, on Thursday, it's our first edition of Paul Charchian coming on and talking fantasy football as we start to help you out with your fantasy football league. I'll also kind of fill you in on the Guillotine League that Paul runs. The Guillotine Leagues. If you have never done one, I highly recommend it. But I'm doing the draft, so I'll let you know how the draft kind of comes out as we continue on throughout the next, 24, 48 hours on the draft, as each of the, quote, celebrities, so to speak, the media pickers, pick their teams and how they come out. But that's going on as well. This is from Jason real quick. He says, going to see you tonight at the cigar event at Trails End. Looking forward to it. He said, well, that's just stupid. I'm not going to go there. Then this one is from Jesse, who says, looking forward to the Brewers game tonight. We're driving down from La Crosse, listening to the program right now on the app. Love the show. Hopefully Woody can get a big win tonight. Brewers need this one big time. What do you think if Christian Yelich gets off the schneid with a dinger? Do you still think that he's going to hit less than 15? I do. We talked about that earlier. Maybe you're just trying to yank the chain. I don't know. But he's only got 8 home runs in the season. For him to, he would. Don't get me wrong. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he couldn't still get the 15 home runs. But come on, what makes you think at this point at all that Christian Yelich is going to get over 15 home runs in the season? I just hope that he comes out of the 0 for 25 slump. And maybe they start to tinker with the lineup again. Do you think he needs to be pulled out of the leadoff position? That might be a better way to go. And then what do you do? If you've moved him out of his third spot to the leadoff spot, he excelled, but then he's gone back into that funk yet again. Where do you move him now? Do you put Colton Wong back in the leadoff spot? If you go 0 for again tonight, do you put Colton Wong back in the leadoff spot? And then do you move Christian Yelich, say, down to 7th? Where do you go then? Because there's really not a whole lot places left in the lineup to hide him at that point. So we'll see what they end up doing. What Craig Counsell ends up doing. ESPN Steve says bench him or tell him to stay home. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. If I put yards on the button where he belongs. Okay. There you go. That's from Brendan. That's it. Good stuff on the Bud Light live stream today. Good stuff for everybody chiming in over on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. By the way, Matt says regarding the Brewers, between Woodruff and Burns, fiscally they can only hope to keep one, not both. Don't forget, Garrett Cole got over $300 million. I'm not a salary cap guy, but the difference in Major League Baseball payroll is astonishing. MLB needs a maximum and a minimum. That's the biggest thing, is to get a floor. There you have it. I will see you in Wausau.